Everyone in the Tian Yan sect noticed it. Ever since the eldest disciple was bound beneath the Xuanshan icefall by the female master, and endured 81 days of corporal punishment, I have changed. I no longer burn with jealousy over my master and junior brother. Instead, I yield and show generosity at every turn. When master demanded I extract my dragon bone to heal junior brother, I pulled it out with my bare hands without a word. When master ordered me to move out of my courtyard for junior brother, I packed my things and left that very day. Before leaving, I burned every single thing that belonged to me. Everyone thought I was just playing hard to get. After all, I had shamelessly loved my master for 100 years, while she only doted on my junior brother. It seemed impossible for me not to be envious. But no one knew the truth. On that final day of punishment, while bound beneath the Xuanshan icefall, I paid the price by severing my own love roots, begging the sect leader for a way out. This disciple is willing to cast away all emotions and sever my love roots, to walk the way of heartlessness. I beg the sect leader to grant this wish. After a long silence, a cold, indifferent voice echoed from within. Granted. My thanks to the sect leader. I closed my eyes and kowtowed deeply. The sect leader allowed me to practice the way of heartlessness, and even personally extracted my first love root. The pain pierced through to my very soul. I was in so much agony that I could not even stand. I lay in my small bamboo pavilion for 3 whole days, and there were still 6 more such roots to be pulled. Suddenly, a summons came from outside the pavilion. Eldest disciple, master requests your presence. I did not know why, but I forced my battered body to Tang Kiem Fong and entered the hall. A frigid voice suddenly exploded in my ears. Kneel. I was stunned. I looked up toward the high seat. There stood a figure as pure and stainless as the bright moonlight. This was my master, the sword-bearing elder of the Tian Yan sect, hailed as the greatest genius in the cultivation world for a millennium. Meeting her gaze, which was filled with burning anger, I knelt down heavily. This disciple does not know what he has done wrong. I beg master to enlighten me. The woman's face remained cold. It seemed she did not want to speak to me at all. Instead, the second disciple, Zanzheng, shouted in a rage. Junior brother was attacked by a spirit beast in the Forbidden Forest yesterday. He almost lost his life. As the eldest disciple, is this not your fault? I was speechless. I had been bedridden with severe injuries for 3 days. How could I possibly have looked after Ruo Chen? I could only try to explain. Every disciple knows the Forbidden Forest is full of danger, and entry is strictly forbidden. Junior brother is perfectly mobile, yet I was so injured I could not even leave my bed. I truly could not have watched over him. I spoke while looking at the woman high above, but she still did not say a single word. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. My voice trembled as I asked, does master also believe this is my fault? The woman looked away, her tone indifferent. A Chen is young and a bit mischievous. That he did such a thing is because you failed to lead by example. The moment I heard those words, I clenched my fist so hard my nails dug into my palms. Even though one love root had already been removed, my heart throbbed with a familiar, agonizing ache once again. I squeezed out each word one by one. Then, what does master wish for this disciple to do? In the next moment, I heard her voice, as cold as ice. 12 years ago, I went to Giant Dragon Valley to retrieve a black dragon bone, to forge your spiritual roots. At the mention of the dragon bone, my heart sank. Back then, I had been unable to break through to the foundation establishment stage for a long time. That woman entered Giant Dragon Valley all by herself. She braved the dangers of Giant Dragon Valley alone, to retrieve a dragon bone for me to forge a spiritual root. When she finally emerged from the valley, the pristine white dragon bone in her hand was stained crimson with her blood. Yet she still raised her hand to gently stroke my head. Ching, do not cry. Master did this for you out of her own free will. I gazed for a long time at that high and mighty figure, the person who looked exactly as she did in my memories. Finally, I forced a smile that looked more painful than weeping. I remember. What does master wish of me? The woman announced in a cold voice. A Chen is injured now. You shall atone for your sins with your merit. Extract the dragon bone, so I may use it to heal him. My brain felt as though it had been struck by a heavy sledgehammer. My heart felt as if it were being crushed by a pair of giant hands. I parted my lips, but my voice was terrifyingly hoarse. Master, do you know what will happen to me if I lose the dragon bone? Do you know what my fate will be? Forging a spiritual root with a dragon bone can compensate for innate deficiencies, but it also means all my cultivation is tethered to that very bone. Over the past 12 years, the dragon bone has already taken root deep within my body. Once removed, not only will my cultivation be lost and I become a cripple, but it is even possible I might die on the spot. This point, as the woman who helped me forge the spiritual root, it is impossible for her not to know. Yet the woman simply looked away with indifference. Her tone did not carry a single hint of hesitation. I will extract it myself. It will not cost you your life. Saying that, she added another sentence. Besides, you were born with a useless spiritual root anyway. If your cultivation is lost, you can just start over from the beginning. A sentence spoken so coldly and casually, yet it dealt a devastating blow to my heart. I stared blankly at the woman standing before me like elegant jade. I still remember when I first began my cultivation. Because of my useless spiritual root, I was ridiculed by my fellow disciples. I went crying to her, "My master, is a Qing really a worthless failure?" The woman caressed my head with her jade-like hand. Her voice held a hint of suppressed anger. "A Qing is not a failure. Master will give you the very best of everything." She heavily punished the disciples who mocked me, and then searched through ancient texts to find that dragon bone for me. In all these years, the woman's appearance has not changed in the slightest. Even her moon-white long robes have never been stained by a single speck of dust. But why does the master who used to care for me so deeply seem to have vanished? I said nothing. The woman lowered her gaze slightly. "Extract the bone." She stepped down from the clouds, intending to take the bone himself. I propped up my body and let out a hollow laugh. "Let us not dirty master's hands. I shall do it myself." I wanted to return what she gave me with my own hands. Drawing my long sword, I decisively peeled the dragon bone from my spine while still alive. The bloody dragon bone, still warm with my body heat, was offered to her. I was carried back to the small bamboo pavilion. After lying in a daze for a full half-month, I was finally barely able to get up. Excruciating pain radiated from my dantian. The spiritual energy that once flowed through my body had completely dried up. I had indeed become a cripple, yet I had no time to suffer over this matter. I found the sect leader, and once again requested to have my love roots uprooted. As before, the sect leader asked no questions. He performed the technique immediately. After the second love root was pulled out, my entire body collapsed weakly to the ground. But in that instant, the sorrow in my heart suddenly dissipated significantly. The sect leader was also very satisfied. Originally, practicing the way of heartlessness is to cultivate something from nothing. If the cultivation is gone, then it is gone. One should know that the way of heartlessness is the only one in the world. That does not rely on the strength of one's spiritual root. It is a supreme technique, but because it requires discarding all 7 emotions. In thousands of years, within the Tianyan sect, only the sect leader's lineage would dare to practice it. I bowed respectfully. "Thank you, sect leader." After resting for a while, I finally returned to the bamboo house. Upon pushing the door open, I saw a woman. It seemed she had been waiting for me for a long time. Her expression showed a hint of impatience. Subconsciously, I offered a respectful salute. "Ruo Chen came to thank you a few days ago, but you refused to even see him. I came to see just how high and mighty you have become. It seems even I cannot move you anymore." I pursed my lips and knelt down immediately. "Your disciple knows his mistake." The woman was taken aback. She did not expect me to admit fault so readily. Amidst the silence, her gaze fell upon my pale and colorless face. Her eyes darkened for a moment. After a long pause, she took out a bottle of healing elixir. "If your wounds are not healed, do not go wandering around, lest you make others worry unnecessarily." Stunned, I took the spirit medicine. Her brow relaxed slightly, then she shifted the subject. "Ruo Chen is innocent and naive. If you have any grievances, come to me directly. Do not bully him. He still has the heart of a child, and you do not need to put on this aggrieved act. Even if your cultivation is ruined, I will not expel you from the sect. As for other matters, do not dwell on them anymore." By other matters, did she mean my unrequited love for her? The corners of my mouth curled into a bitter smile. I still remembered that love letter. When Ruo Chen exposed it to the entire world, the woman's words were full of loathing. Such a lowly and despicable affection is truly nauseating. Those words, despicable affection. During the 81 days I spent undergoing punishment, I pondered them every single moment. Finally, I saw through everything. Since my love is considered despicable, and yet I cannot control my feelings for my master, then I shall use the sect leader's hand to sever this ill-fated bond once and for all. I kowtowed once more. "Your disciple shall obey your command. Once the love roots are pulled out, there is no possibility of restoration. She will never have to feel disgusted by me again." After my injuries had fully healed, I went to the sect leader's residence again. After the 3rd love root was extracted, the sect leader finally spoke in a calm tone. "It took 10 years to pull out the first love root. You have become quite diligent to extract 3 of them in such a short time." I did not respond. I was gritting my teeth, enduring the pain without a sound. When the first 2 were pulled, I rolled on the ground in agony. Now I seemed to have grown numb. It was as if, as my emotions faded away, my sense of pain became dull as well. Sensing my injury, the Chen Yuan sword suddenly flew into the air. It stood before me like a guardian, protecting its master. Seeing this rusted and battered sword, the sect leader's usually calm eyes suddenly trembled. I recognized this sword. This was the natal divine sword of the Tianyan sect's first leader. It has never left its scabbard since the founder's ascension. The back mountain was never meant to be a sword graveyard. It only became one because this sword lay dormant there. He was deeply shocked in his heart, but watching my receding figure as I walked away, the sect leader said nothing in the end. I returned to the bamboo house. I saw a white figure. It was that woman again. I froze for a second, then I knelt down respectfully. The woman remained silent, as she looked at me kneeling before her, dressed in nothing but thin, tattered robes. A strange ripple of emotion flickered through her heart. For some inexplicable reason, she felt that I was different from before. Yet no matter how hard she looked, she could not pinpoint why. After a long silence, she suppressed the look in her eyes, and handed a sword to me. Your sword was destroyed today. I shall give you a new one. A new one. I looked at the sword before me, and could not help but let out a hollow, silent laugh. Was this not my junior brother's former blade? The edge was sharp, but on the hilt, the name engraved there, was unmistakably Ruo Chen's former weapon. After she had gifted Ruo Chen a superior sword, this blade had never been seen again. Little did I expect it would be offered to me as a form of compensation. Seeing that I remained unmoved, her gaze darkened. She said coldly, Zanzheng was indeed reckless and impulsive today, but he is still your junior brother. Are you really going to hold a grudge against him? A Chen is kind-hearted. He felt sorry that you lost your sword, and so he gifted this to you. Though it is second-hand, it is better than having no sword at all. Her words came to an abrupt halt. She pursed her lips and spoke no further, but I knew exactly what she meant. Even if it was something Ruo Chen had used and discarded, it was still leagues better than anything I ever had. For a fleeting moment, a sting of pain pricked my heart, before it returned to a state of absolute calm. In the past, witnessing her favor toward Ruo Chen would have cut me to the bone, but now, everything felt clear and weightless. I finally understood that the matters of the heart follow no logic or reason. My master dotes on her youngest disciple, so naturally, her heart leans toward him. That is only to be expected. I cannot force a place in her heart. Fortunately, once the 7 emotions are severed, the heart can no longer suffer. Taking the sword, I bowed deeply. My thanks to you, master. She turned and left immediately. As I lowered my gaze, I noticed an embroidered sachet with tassels hanging from her waist. One look was enough to know it was crafted by Ruo Chen. I remember making many sachets like that in the past, learning the craft from my fellow junior sisters. Yet she never wore a single one I gave her. Back then, she said she simply did not like sachets. It turns out, the only thing she did not like was me. I raised my hand and pressed it against my chest. My heart was beating, but not a single ripple of emotion remained. With 3 of the 7 emotions gone, there is no anger, no joy, and no envy. A few days later, I was summoned to Hidden Sword Peak. All the disciples had gathered. Han Yan cleared her throat and spoke. The Grand Sect tournament is about to begin. Hidden Sword Peak need not send anyone for the foundation establishment and chi refining stages. For the spellcasting matches, a Chen will represent us. As for the sword arts, she paused for a moment. Her gaze fell upon me, leaving no room for refusal. It shall be you. I understood why. When it came to pure swordsmanship, in all of Hidden Sword Peak, no one was my match. As you command, I replied with eyes downcast. Once the instructions were finished, and the crowd had dispersed, Han Yan led me to the cloud-soaring terrace where I used to practice. Since being punished to kneel at the icefall, I had not set foot here. Looking at the scenery now, it felt both foreign and familiar. Familiar, because I had practiced my forms here. Ever since I first held a sword at the age of 3, I am intimately familiar with every blade of grass and every tree here. The sense of strangeness comes from the fact that every corner of Tengyun platform is now cluttered with Ruo Chen's belongings. Han Yan said indifferently, you shall practice your swordplay here for the time being. If you encounter any difficulties, you may come and seek my guidance. She paused for a moment, then immediately added another sentence. Your cultivation level is currently meager, so take care not to bring harm upon yourself. I froze for a second, suddenly recalling the countless days and nights spent practicing my sword here in the past. Back then, Han Yan would hold my hand to guide my practice, gently explaining the essential techniques to me. She would also meticulously apply medicine whenever I was injured. But those countless moments of tender care could not withstand that single sentence. I only ever saw you as a disciple. Put away those filthy thoughts of yours. My heart tightened in an instant. Status and position cannot be overstepped. A master is a master. A disciple is but a disciple. I closed my eyes, my voice becoming calm. Yes, master, your disciple shall obey your command. After practicing every sword form, only then did I leave Tengyun platform. However, halfway back, I ran into Ruo Chen and his group. Ruo Chen stepped forward, his gaze sweeping over the Chen Yuan sword, and immediately asked, Senior brother, why are not you carrying the sword I gave you? Do you not like the gift I gave you? He looked quite displeased. Beside him, Zanjung hurriedly offered comfort. Junior brother, this is clearly Xianqing's fault, with his inferior spiritual roots. He is not worthy of using your sword at all. I spoke in a flat tone. A sword has a spirit. That sword and I are not destined for each other. I was about to leave after saying that, but was pulled back by Ruo Chen again. Senior brother, it is the Immortal Sect Grand Assembly after all. With your mixed spiritual roots, you will humiliate our Kongjin Peak. How about this? I will lend you this bone whistle one more time. With the Dragon Bone's blessing, you might at least survive the Immortal Sect Grand Assembly. As soon as those words were spoken, the people around immediately began to praise him. Junior brother is truly kind-hearted. Even though Xianqing treats him with such disrespect, he is still willing to lend him the Dragon Bone. Ruo Chen continued talking, taking off the bone whistle, and handed it to me ostentatiously. Looking at the Dragon Bone that had been my constant companion for 12 years, I was dazed for a moment. Subconsciously, I reached out to touch it, but Ruo Chen abruptly yanked the bone whistle back. Ruo Chen shook his head vigorously, speaking with a face full of self-reproach. No, I can't do this. Wouldn't this be cheating? I am sorry, senior brother. It was a Chen who did not think things through. A Chen cannot lend it to you anymore. I am so sorry. He kept apologizing repeatedly, lowering his head, looking incredibly aggrieved. This instantly drew pity from the onlookers, who then turned to glare at me with fury. Xianqing, what is the meaning of this? How can you bully a Chen just because he won't help you cheat? A Chen is already in this state, and you still have not apologized. This is simply too much. Amidst the cacophony of voices, I somehow became the target of everyone's scorn, as if I had committed some unpardonable atrocity, but I was clearly just standing there. Yet, the moment Ruo Chen is unhappy, I am guilty of a heinous crime. Among those clamoring for my apology, many were fellow disciples I was once close to, but now, the way they look at me, it is as if we are mortal enemies. My chest felt heavy and suffocated. Without a word, I turned and left. I made my way back to Wudao Peak. I requested the sect leader to extract my fourth love root. It was the same bone-deep, soul-piercing agony. Grit my teeth, I asked. I ventured to ask the sect leader, when will these love roots finally be purged? The sect leader shook his head. I do not know. The first 6 I can extract for you, but the final one requires you to find the right moment yourself. You can only wait. How long must I wait? I gave a bitter, strained smile, until I completely ceased to love Han Yan. I slumped on the floor, waiting for the pain to subside. Suddenly, Han Yan's voice echoed from outside the door. Han Yan of Kongjin Peak requests an audience with the sect leader. Her voice held an urgency I had never heard before. With a wave of the sect leader's hand, several layers of silk curtains fell, concealing me. Only then did the sect leader open the door. There, outside the door, Han Yan was supporting a blood-soaked Ruo Chen, who was kneeling weakly. My disciple, Ruo Chen, was accidentally injured by a spirit beast today. His injuries are critical and life-threatening. I have come to seek the sect leader's help. The sect leader said calmly, your medical skills are not inferior to mine. If you cannot heal him, there is no point in seeking me. Leave now. He was dismissing her, but Han Yan would not budge. A Chen's injuries are too severe. There is only one way to save him. But to use this method, I need the sect leader to act as witness. What method? The sect leader asked. Han Yan spoke, emphasizing every word. I shall become Dao companions with A Chen, and perform dual cultivation with him. My mind went blank with a sudden roar. I listened to everything happening outside in a daze. The sect leader's voice was cold. Once dual cultivation begins, there is no turning back. Have you truly thought this through? Yes, Han Yan answered without a moment's hesitation. I shall have no regrets in this life. Through the gaps in the swaying silk curtains, I saw Han Yan clearly at that moment. She held Ruo Chen, as if she were cradling a precious treasure. She knelt there, back straight and resolute. With reddened eyes, she spoke every word with absolute conviction. I suddenly snapped back to reality. So, this is what she looks like when her heart is truly moved. All that talk of status and boundaries that could not be crossed. All that, a master is a master, and a disciple is a disciple. It was all just an excuse. Han Yan had never been like this before. So frantic, so desperate, worrying for someone else at any cost. As if Ruo Chen's departure would cost her her own life. It was because she loved Ruo Chen. Seeing her resolve, the sect leader asked no more and gave his consent. Having received permission, Han Yan wasted no more time. Holding Ruo Chen, she departed. The sect leader turned around. Seeing my expression empty and distant, the sect leader asked, have you seen everything clearly now? Gazing into the void before me, I hurriedly spoke up. Sect leader, I have already severed 4 of my love roots. Is that right? The sect leader nodded. Lust, desire, love, hatred, sorrow, and longing. Most of them have already left him. Then why? I clutched my chest, struggling to force the words out. Why does my heart still ache? A few days later, later, after nearly depleting the entire stock of elixirs from Hidden Sword Peak, Ruo Chen's life was finally saved. As for the wedding between Ruo Chen and Han Yan, it was set for the first day of next month. I spent day and night at the cloud-soaring terrace, practicing my swordplay. I wanted absolutely nothing to do with this joyous occasion. Yet, malicious rumors inexplicably began to spread among the disciples. Who does not know that the senior disciple is in love with our master? I saw that love letter with my own eyes back then. Every single word was just so shameless, a useless trash with a mixed spiritual root, an abandoned infant picked up from a mass grave. What right does he have to lust after master? Now that master is marrying our junior brother. If I were him, I would have left long ago to avoid being an eyesore. But no, he is thick-skinned enough to stay. He is probably looking for a chance to ruin master's big day. Sentence after sentence, they struck me like countless silver needles. That evening, I was summoned to the great hall of Hidden Sword Peak. All the disciples were present, gathered around and whispering in shadows. I knelt alone in the center of the hall. Master, why have you summoned me? Before Han Yan could speak, Ruo Chen's voice rang out. Senior brother, there is no need to be so formal. Please get up. I raised my eyes. Ruo Chen was standing right beside Han Yan. His injuries had fully healed. He looked radiant and refreshed. Standing next to him was a spirit crane. Look, senior brother, this is my new spiritual pet. Those severe injuries I suffered days ago were all to capture it. Fortunately, I am all better now. Master Han Yan even caught it herself to give to me as a pet. He wore a smile of pure bliss. I shifted my gaze to Han Yan, only to see a look of doting indulgence on her face. Congratulations, I said flatly. Then I added, if there is nothing else, this disciple shall take his leave. As I rose to depart, Han Yan called out to me, wait. She looked down at me from her high seat, her tone heavy and cold. A Chen needs a place to raise his spirit crane. Your bamboo lodge is quiet and secluded. Give it up to a Chen. My footsteps halted. After a long silence, I asked softly, then, where should I move to? Han Yan did not look at me, but her voice carried a boundless indifference. There are still rooms in the outer sect quarters for the laboring disciples. You shall move there. Her words fell with absolute finality, leaving no room for argument. I was stunned into silence for a long time. Presumably, Han Yan had also heard those rumors, so she was casting me out, just to put Ruo Chen's heart at ease. In the end, I gave a slight resigned nod. Yes, I said nothing more. I returned to the bamboo pavilion to pack my belongings. I did not have much. A few books, some elixir pills, all fit into a small bundle, and also a lock carefully kept in the cabinet. Most cultivators use seals or incantations for their rooms. No one uses a physical lock. Han Yan had brought this lock for me from the mortal realm years ago. Ah Ching, mortal families always have locks for their homes. Only when it is locked is it truly a home. Do not believe the nonsense others say about you being homeless. The Tian Yan sect is your home. Her words still echoed in my ears. The lock, preserved with care for years, was still as bright as new. But now, my home is gone. I cast the lock down the abyss. I left Kongjin Peak. After asking the sect leader to pluck out my fifth love root, I moved to the outer sect. The room for the sweeping disciples was much more cramped, yet it was peaceful. At least, I no longer had to endure judgmental looks everywhere. On the first night I stayed at the outer sect, Han Yan found me and said, the great tournament is approaching. It is a long way for you to travel to Tengyun platform to practice every day. You may temporarily stay in the small pavilion next to it. I looked at her quietly. The person before me still wore those moon-white robes, her expression distant and cold. Her appearance was clearly the same as before, but perhaps because more than half of my love roots were gone, I suddenly struggled to recall those once unforgettable memories. I lowered my eyes, giving a faint salute. Thank you for your kindness, elder. Staying at the outer sect is fine for me. Swordsmanship is born from all things in heaven and earth. The world is vast. There is no need for Tengyun platform. I can practice my sword anywhere. This was the first time I had ever refused Han Yan. Han Yan stared at me for a long time, and finally spoke. I have found that those rumors were spread by Ruo Chen's orders. He only acted impulsively because he cares for me in his heart. You are the senior brother. Do not hold it against him. I was stunned for a moment, then eventually let out a bitter smile. It was rare for Han Yan to offer comfort, but it was still for Ruo Chen's sake. A faint trace of bitterness spread through my heart. I regained my composure, and spoke each word firmly. Toward you, elder, I now only have respect. I no longer harbor any lingering feelings. Han Yan's gaze grew heavy as she watched me for a long while. Then she finally turned and left. I did not linger on her departing figure either. Picking up my sword, I walked in the opposite direction, walking further and further apart, until we were like total strangers. From that day on, I moved my practice from Tengyun platform to the back mountains. While I was practicing today, I heard a cold sneer behind me. Is senior brother still practicing his sword? You are already a piece of trash. Why bother working so hard? I turned around. It was Zanjung. He was followed by several people, and Ruo Chen was among them. Hearing Zanjung's words, Ruo Chen gave him a light pat. He spoke with a faint smile. Senior brother, how can you say such a thing? Imagine how heartbroken our eldest senior brother would be if he heard that. Zanjung let out a cold snort. I did not say anything wrong. No matter how hard some people train, they can only manage a lucky win at the Great Immortal Sect tournament. But on any regular day, even a low-tier disciple with a bit of spiritual power could take him down. As he spoke, he covered his mouth with exaggerated shock. He quickly corrected himself, as if realizing a mistake. Oh, I forgot. This person has already been banished to the outer sect. He is no longer the eldest senior brother of our hidden sword peak. He is just a piece of trash now. He spat out the word trash with biting emphasis. Every word was meant to cut deep like a blade. Yet as those words reached my heart, they failed to stir even the slightest ripple of emotion. I did not say a word. I sheathed my sword, preparing to leave. However, this very act ignited a sudden surge of fury in Zanjung's heart. You dare to ignore me. Xianqing, before, the master used to shield you. Now you have nothing left. What right do you have to be so arrogant? Last time, you got me punished with reflection. This time, I won't let you off so easily. While shouting, he raised his sword and lunged forward. His sword's edge was just as sharp as the last time, brimming with dense spiritual power. I could not dodge in time, so I had no choice but to brace myself and meet the strike head-on. Clang! The blades collided, releasing a thunderous boom. But to my utter surprise, the Chen Yuan sword did not shatter. Instead, it withstood the blow with sheer resilience. That is impossible. Zanjung cried out in shock. How could a piece of trash like you block my sword? You must have used some forbidden technique, resorting to forbidden arts. Xianqing, just you wait to be expelled from the sect. The matter was quickly brought before Han Yan. Zanjung knelt at Han Yan's feet, exaggerating the story wildly. Senior brother has succumbed to inner demons and used forbidden arts. Otherwise, there is no way he could have defeated me. He definitely used forbidden magic. I beg Master to punish him severely. I tightened my grip on my sword. I did not remain silent this time. Instead, I spoke with a calm, steady voice. You have no heart for the sword. You rely on your superior spirit root to skip classes constantly. It is only logical that I could block that strike. If you persist in your willful ways, even the finest spirit root won't be able to save you. Zanjung's face turned pale and then flushed with rage. He wanted to retort, but was coldly interrupted by Han Yan. Enough. Xianqing still needs to prepare for the grand tournament. From now on, no one is allowed to disturb him. As soon as she spoke, the surrounding area fell into an instant silence. Han Yan walked right up to Zanjung. Your heart is restless and impatient, provoking your fellow disciple with such malicious assumptions. Go to the Hall of Discipline and accept your punishment. Once the order was given, no one dared to argue. Zanjung left with a dejected expression. Only then did I let out a soft sigh of relief. Just as I was about to leave, Ruo Chen, standing nearby, suddenly cried out in pain. Han Yan was startled. She instantly grabbed the hand he was clutching. Her tone was filled with deep concern. What happened? Ruo Chen glanced at me with a look of feigned distress, revealing a faint, barely visible scratch on the back of his hand. It is nothing. I was just accidentally grazed by senior brother's sword energy. Han Yan, please do not blame senior brother. I froze in disbelief. I never even made a move. I was merely parrying. How could there be any sword energy? Looking at that shallow wound, Han Yan's expression grew increasingly grim. Finally, she barked coldly. Xianqing, you acted on impulse, engaged in a private brawl, and harmed your own sect brother. Such lowly conduct is intolerable. Go to the discipline hall and receive 30 lashes. 30 lashes. That is far more severe than Zanjung's punishment. Inside the discipline hall, the long whip, crackling with purple lightning, struck my back ruthlessly. Instantly, my flesh was torn open. One strike. I counted each blow in my heart, yet I remained kneeling, my back as straight as a spear. The wounds on my back were deep enough to show bone, but in the depths of my soul, there was only a profound stillness. It was as if my love for Han Yan was bleeding out along with my torn flesh. When the punishment ended, I returned to Hidden Sword Peak to report. Outside the door, I overheard Ruo Chen speaking in a tender voice. Han Yan, I truly hope that after we are wed, every day I wake up will feel like a dream under the flowers and the moon. Han Yan's voice was uncharacteristically soft. Then I shall fill this hidden sword peak with fresh blooms, making it feel like eternal spring all year round. My footsteps faltered at the entrance. In the end, I chose not to be the third wheel and disturb them. Instead, I turned and headed to ask the way peak. After requesting the sect leader to sever my sixth love root, I did not leave. I kowtowed deeply, my forehead hitting the ground. Sect leader, this disciple has one request. The sect leader immediately saw through my thoughts. This seat has told you before. Regarding the seventh love root, there is nothing I can do. Love is a matter of destiny, decreed by the heavens. Some must break their bones and hearts to understand. Some sacrifice their loved ones to prove their way, and some achieve enlightenment in a single night of spring rain. Seeing my dazed expression, he paused, then continued, "You need not return to the outer disciples' quarters. Stay here on Ask the Way Peak." I could only reply, "My deepest thanks, sect leader. I will go back and pack my belongings." The sect leader watched my thinning silhouette, lost in thought for a long time. The rules of the Tianyan sect state that every sect leader must come from the way of heartlessness. Only then can their cultivation suppress all others, and their judgments be truly impartial, free from any personal bias. But humans are born with 7 emotions and 6 desires. Who would willingly endure the agony of uprooting them to walk this path? That is why, to this day, he has not taken a single disciple. Now that I have severed 6 roots in such a short time, he finally has a successor. 7 days later, the Great Immortal Sect Tournament arrived as scheduled. I attended, after all. Unsurprisingly, I claimed the title of champion in swordsmanship, but the cheers of congratulations I received in previous years had turned into biting sarcasm this time. What a pity. No matter how good his swordsmanship is, his spiritual root is still just trash. He will never amount to anything great. The way he covets his own master is already common knowledge throughout the cultivation world. He is truly shameless, but then again, that sword of his is not inferior even to a high-grade immortal sword. Could it be a top-tier immortal sword? Impossible. How could someone like him be worthy of such a fine blade? It is just dumb luck. Every mocking word reaches my ears. Yet the resentment and grievances I once felt no longer stir within me at all. With my emotions severed and desires cast aside, my heart is now as still as stagnant water. The reward for the champion is a medicinal bath in the marrow cleansing pool, which can heal old injuries. When I arrived at the poolside, I was told that the water must remain pure, and no external objects could be brought inside. I had no choice but to leave the Chen Yuan sword outside the door. Several hours later, I emerged from the marrow cleansing pool. Walking to the entrance, I found that Chen Yuan was gone. My brows furrowed tightly, since the sword had already recognized me as its master. I immediately tracked it through our spiritual connection. By the time I reached my destination, I saw Chen Yuan being forcibly held by someone, letting out a continuous, mournful hum. As I stepped closer, the one holding the sword was none other than Ruo Chen. The disciples of Tang Qianfang were surrounding him, cheering him on. "Junior brother, just a little more effort. Soon you will be able to erase the mark Xianqing left on the sword." My gaze darkened. I immediately strode forward. "Give my sword back to me." My voice carried a heavy, crushing pressure. The crowd was instantly startled. Ruo Chen's eyes turned red at once. "I am sorry, senior brother. I did not do it on purpose." Zanzheng immediately stepped in front of Ruo Chen. "Xianqing, what is wrong with you? Why are you deliberately scaring our junior brother?" I do not wish to waste words. I reached out my hand, and Chen Yuan flew toward me, but Ruo Chen gripped the sword tightly, refusing to let go. His voice was incredibly broken as he spoke. "Senior brother, I really like this sword. I beg you, please give it to me." Zanzheng immediately scolded me. "Xianqing, do not be so stingy. A Chen already gave you a sword before. He likes the sword, so what is the harm in giving it to him?" I could not be bothered to respond. At that moment, Chen Yuan finally broke free from the restraint and flew back into my hand. Ruo Chen was pulled off balance, falling to the ground. I sheathed my sword and prepared to leave, but Ruo Chen looked behind me, crying out in a grievance. "Han Yan, save me. Senior brother wants to kill me." I froze for a moment and turned around. I saw Han Yan already striding toward us. Ruo Chen immediately knelt on the ground. "It is my fault for being unworthy of master. That is why senior brother wants to eliminate me. I will leave Tangjian Peak now and never return." His blatant distortion of the truth made me frown deeply. I immediately tried to defend myself. I never laid a hand on him. A layer of cold fury clouded Han Yan's eyes. "Xianqing, had I known you would turn out like this, I should have stood by and watched you perish in the mass grave back then." My mind went blank with a thunderous roar. Every word I wanted to say died in my throat. Before I could even process it, Han Yan was already right in front of me. A sharp, agonizing pain pierced my chest. In utter disbelief, I looked down, and there it was. Han Yan's sword had plunged deep into my heart. As she withdrew the blade, it brought with it a spray of blood like falling petals. From above, Han Yan's voice drifted down, devoid of any warmth. Qianqing, for your malicious intent, and for harming your fellow disciple, you are hereby expelled from this sect. In this lifetime, you shall never set foot on Kongjin Peak again. I felt it clearly then. The very last, deepest, and longest strand of my love roots had finally snapped. The news of my expulsion from Kongjin Peak spread through the entire Tian Yan sect within an hour. Some cheered at my downfall, but soon after, another piece of news shook the Tian Yan sect to its core. The sect leader had taken a new disciple, a mysterious person whom no one had ever seen. The disciples were immediately abuzz with gossip. I thought the way of heartlessness would end with the sect leader's generation. To think someone is actually practicing it again. Remember that person who tried to learn it before. Forget about reaching enlightenment. They could not even endure the agony of severing a single love root. Everyone knows the next sect leader must come from the way of heartlessness. The successor has basically been decided then. The clamor over the sect leader's new disciple faded after 2 weeks, because next was the grand wedding of Han Yan and Ruo Chen on the first day of the second month. At the wedding venue on Kongjin Peak, nearly every inner disciple of the Tian Yan sect was present. The main hall of Kongjin Peak was breathtaking. Ruo Chen, dressed in vibrant red wedding robes, looked at Han Yan by his side and spoke. Han Yan, senior brother has been gone for so long. Even the people you sent to find him have returned empty-handed. Do you think something has happened to him? Han Yan paused, her voice heavy and somber. There is no need to worry about him. Despite her words, her gaze drifted toward the layers of clouds in the distance. Just then, the master of ceremonies announced loudly, "The auspicious hour has arrived. Will the couple please bow to heaven and earth?" Han Yan took Ruo Chen's hand and stood before the sacred tablet of marriage. But instead of the command to bow, they heard a resounding proclamation. The sect leader has arrived. Kneel. In an instant, the boisterous atmosphere of the wedding banquet came to a sudden halt. Everyone knelt in unison toward the entrance. Greetings, sect leader. Han Yan and Ruo Chen knelt as well. The sect leader paced slowly forward, and behind him followed a man dressed in black robes. Everyone was stunned. Only Zhang, upon recognizing the man, instantly flew into a rage. Qianqing, how dare you show your face here? Today is Ruo Chen's wedding day. Kongjin Peak does not welcome a toxic piece of trash like you. Get out. His words echoed through the silent wedding hall, yet my eyes remained as calm as still water, without a single ripple. This sight caused Han Yan's heart to skip 2 heavy beats. Before she could speak, do as the sect leader says. Today, I have come to introduce to you all my personal disciple, who is also the successor to the leadership of the Tian Yan sect. Qianqing, the sect leader's voice was not loud, yet it resonated through every single inch of the hall. All whispers and discussions died down instantly. That is impossible. Zhang leapt to his feet in protest. Qianqing is just a useless failure with a crippled spiritual root. How could he possibly be the sect leader's disciple? This must be an illusion. The sect leader shot him a cold glance, his voice devoid of any warmth, yet carrying a heavy, suffocating pressure. Disrespecting the successor is disrespecting the Tian Yan sect itself. I shall return to Wudao Peak first. Handle the rest as you see fit. Those words were as good as a proclamation to everyone. The fact that I am now the successor is set in stone. If only. The crowd, once skeptical, all bowed their heads in submission. I lowered my gaze. Yes, only after the sect leader had departed did I finally fix my eyes upon Zhang. There was no anger at his defiance, nor any pride in my sudden rise to power. I simply watched him quietly, as if I were looking at a mere object. Zhang, disciple of Hidden Sword Peak, for your lack of etiquette and insolence, go to the hall of meditation and receive 300 lashes. Let this be a warning to others. Zhang wanted to argue further, but he could only leave in dejected humiliation. Ruo Chen, with reddened eyes, suddenly rushed in front of me. You can't. Senior brother did nothing wrong. How can you subject him to such a severe punishment? Senior brother, I know you love Han Yan, and I know you hate me, but how could you intentionally ruin my wedding like this? If you truly cannot let Master go, I can step aside and give her back to you. At worst, I will just leave and be an orphan once more. He spoke with such aggrieved sincerity, looking completely shattered, but I only looked at him with cold indifference. Ruo Chen, disciple of Hidden Sword Peak, for attempting to shield a transgressor. You share in his guilt. Go to the hall of meditation and transcribe the sect rules 3,000 times. Ruo Chen's face turned pale instantly, but he did not move, only looking at Han Yan with a broken, pleading gaze. Master. Han Yan stepped forward, shielding Ruo Chen behind her, and confronted me coldly. Qianqing, a Chen is innocent. do not take things too far. She still did not know what had transpired, but she would never let a Chen suffer any grievance. I looked at her apathetically, retorting with a question. Repeated instances of insolent speech. Is this how the great elder of sword discipline teaches her disciples? Han Yan was stunned. She stared at me in disbelief, suddenly sensing that something had changed. The man before her, his appearance was as cold and ethereal as ever, seemingly no different than before. But when I looked at her, there was not a single trace of hope left in my eyes. No joy, not even disappointment, only a chilling, deathly silence like a frozen pond. Her heart suddenly skipped a beat in trepidation. Han Yan knit her brows. Xianqing, I am well aware of your feelings for me, but you cannot force what is not meant to be. From beginning to end, the one I love has always been Ruo Chen. I have never loved you. She thought my actions were merely an act of revenge against Ruo Chen, but little did she know, I was simply watching her in silence, as if watching a farce that had absolutely nothing to do with me. I have no desire to make things difficult for anyone, nor will I ever love you. For some unknown reason, these words should have been exactly what Han Yan wanted to hear, yet they seemed to strike a raw nerve. Her eyes trembled violently. Han Yan stared at me, her gaze burning with intensity. Do you really think I would believe such a thing just because you said it? How could you possibly not love me? It was not that she did not know. She knew how much I loved her. She had simply chosen to turn a blind eye to it. In the past, I loved her for so many years. How could that love just vanish into thin air? Suddenly, I felt a sense of helplessness. Standing before me, Han Yan was clad in her wedding finery, the bridal gown embroidered with gold thread draped over her. Yet it only added a touch of coldness to her aura. It was exactly like the wedding between Han Yan and me that I used to imagine when reading storybooks in the mortal realm. But seeing it now, my heart remains as still as stagnant water. I still remember many things from the past, but they are like withered, faded memories, devoid of any lingering emotion. And the person standing before me, her joys and her sorrows, no longer have anything to do with me. I wish the sword-wielding elder a blissful marriage, but there is no need for you to harbor such meaningless concerns. From the very moment your sword pierced my heart, there was no longer even a 1 in a million chance that I would love you. Leaving her with those words, I did not linger. I walked away from the wreckage of the wedding ceremony. Han Yan stood there stunned, watching my retreating figure. Her feet felt as if they were filled with lead, unable to move. The sound of the wind gradually faded from her ears, leaving only the erratic thumping of her heart. Why? She clearly wanted to hear those words. Yet the moment she actually heard them, all that surged within her was a sense of bitterness. But she was as if nailed to the spot, able only to watch helplessly as my back disappeared into the distance. To the side, Ruo Chen forced a smile and stepped forward. Han Yan, let us continue with the ceremony. Senior brother has always been like this. You said yourself that he is willful, did not you? Let us not miss the auspicious hour. However, someone else stepped forward from the side. By order of the sect leader, Ruo Chen is to be taken to the Hall of Discipline for punishment. Ruo Chen's face turned pale instantly. He reached out to grab Han Yan's hand, hoping for help. He thought Han Yan would protect him as she always did. But to his surprise, Han Yan looked down and pulled her hand away from his grasp. The farce that took place today is due to my failure to discipline my disciple. I will personally seek punishment. Let it end here. Distraught and weary, she walked away, no longer caring about the drama behind her. Han Yan walked quickly, as if trying to leave something terrifying behind her. There was a buzzing in her mind, and it felt as though an invisible crack was stealing something away from her. She tried to comfort herself, thinking it was just a nuisance that had left. And it was no big deal. Just a nuisance, nothing more. She returned to Tangjian Peak and slammed the door shut. Han Yan's gaze suddenly fell upon a black dragon bone whistle on the table. This was Ruo Chen's bone whistle. He usually carried it with him every single day. He must have only taken it off today for the grand wedding. She held it in her hand, lost in thought. The small, exquisite black dragon bone contained an abundance of spiritual energy. It even harbored a deep, unfathomable cultivation base. Only then did Han Yan remember how she had risked her life to obtain this black dragon bone back then. It seems this was meant to upgrade my spiritual roots. In my memories, I was still just a tiny, soft toddler. Han Yan had emerged from the Dragon Valley, completely exhausted. Her entire body was covered in wounds. I, dressed all in white, threw myself at her recklessly, heedless of everything. Master, the little child's face was a mess of tears and snot, using tiny hands to try and cover her wounds. Master, a Qing does not want the better spiritual roots anymore. A Qing only wants Master. Miraculously, as I cried and fussed, those wounds scorched by dragon fire seemed to truly stop hurting. Han Yan was gravely injured. She had almost no strength left, yet she forced herself to squeeze out a smile. A Qing, be good. You must cultivate well. Once you grow strong, you can avenge your master, all right. I nodded through my sobs. Okay. She personally firmly implanted the dragon bone into my body. It reshaped my spiritual roots, and it also bore the weight of all my cultivation. From that moment on, it was as if I grew up overnight. The little child who used to slack off at every chance never skipped a single day of practice again. Step by step, I became the first senior brother of Tang Peak, the most outstanding among all the disciples. My cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds. Hailed as the #1 talent of the new generation, everyone in the Tian Yan sect knew that the first senior brother of Tang Peak was the pinnacle of the way of the sword. She watched the person she raised with her own hands become her pride. He became the moon, high and unreachable, and then as she personally plucked that moon down from the sky. Give your dragon bone to a Chen. Her own words echoed in her ears once more, like a sudden clap of thunder. Han Yan looked at the dragon bone that had been turned into a whistle. It felt as if a piece of her heart had been ripped out alive. Only now, with delayed realization, did it dawn on her. It seemed she had lost something more precious than life itself. Vandao Peak, the sect leader's secluded sanctuary. Every blade of grass and tree here was beyond compare. I was practicing my swordplay in the valley. Since the last thread of affection was severed, I have completely mastered the cultivation of the way of heartlessness. The originally chaotic 5-element spiritual roots instantly shifted, transforming into supreme divine roots that could absorb all things. My cultivation also broke past its former limits in a very short time. After finishing a perfect sequence of strikes, I sheathed my sword, feeling a secret sense of satisfaction. The way of heartlessness does not turn me into an unfeeling object. It simply makes me indifferent to what deserves indifference, discarding all unnecessary emotions. Everything in the world now feels as light as a breeze and thin clouds. Hearing a familiar voice, my brief good mood instantly vanished. Turning around, I met Han Yan's eyes. Our gazes met. One was trembling slightly, the other remained perfectly calm. But between the two of us, our positions had already been reversed. I looked away with total indifference. Sword Elder, what brings you to Wandao Peak? As the personal disciple of the sect leader, our statuses are now equal. There is no longer a need for me to kneel. Han Yan seemed stung by my cold tone. The corners of her eyes flushed with a faint redness. She took a deep, shaky breath and spoke with a self-deprecating smile, like an old friend. When did you start cultivating the way of heartlessness? Right under my very nose. And yet I remained completely unaware. I looked at her with an indifferent gaze. I began after returning from Shuanshan Icefall. I was simply telling the truth, seeing nothing wrong with my words. But Han Yan looked as if she had been burned by that sentence. Do you resent me for banishing you to the Shuanshan Icefall? But back then, her voice trailed off, unable to find the words to continue. But I knew exactly what she meant. It was not intentional. She was just too shocked at that moment, wanting only to cast something away. And what was that something? It was my worthless, sincere heart. I silently averted my eyes. To err is human. I made mistakes, and you punished me. Consider our debts settled. There is no need to dwell on the past anymore. If there is nothing else, please leave, Sword Elder. I was clearly asking her to leave, yet Han Yan remained standing there, motionless. After a long silence, she clenched her fists tightly. Xianqing, what if I said, I want to take you back to Hidden Sword Peak? I was momentarily stunned. Lifting my eyes, I saw a familiar bone whistle. It was the black dragon bone I used to cherish. Han Yan's voice whispered in my ear. I was blind to my own feelings before. I could not see your heart, nor could I see mine. Back then, I only viewed you as my disciple. I thought what we shared was merely a master-disciple bond. Han Yan paused. A bitter smile tugged at the corners of her lips. It was just my own arrogance. She had been deceiving herself, failing to see through her own heart, because she had watched me grow up since I was a child. She mistook her concern for me as master-disciple affection, as the protective love of an elder. Therefore, at the moment she saw those love letters, her sudden, racing heartbeat was misinterpreted by her as anger. Confused and overwhelmed, she banished me to the Shuanshan Icefall and went into secluded meditation to calm her mind. But no matter how many times it happened, the instant she saw me again, her heart would still flutter in chaos. Until yesterday, when I told her word by word, I do not love you anymore. Her heart felt like a sword flying mid-air that suddenly lost its weight, plummeting into the abyss. She was suddenly terrified that I would leave her forever. She also finally understood that the heartbeat she had been trying so hard to suppress was called throb of love. A sudden surge of courage rose from the depths of her soul. Han Yan closed her eyes, holding up the bone whistle as if it were a precious treasure. Xianqing, I will return everything to you. Please come back to my side, will you? I took the bone whistle, holding it in my hand and examining it closely. A long silence followed, but then he cast it directly into the nearby deep pool. Something lost and then regained. If it comes too late, It is no longer needed. The dragon bone is one such thing, and so is your heart. As his words fell, a deathly silence filled the air. Han Yan felt as though everything around her was dissolving. She could not tell if this was a dream or reality. If this were reality, how could Xian Qing, who had followed her for 20 years, say he no longer wanted her? But if this were a dream, why did her heart ache so intensely? I am sorry. It was my fault. I know you are angry with me. I will make it up to you in the future. I promise. Han Yan spoke incoherently, desperate to bridge the gap, but I simply turned my back, refusing to listen to another word. Wendao Peak receives no visitors today. Elder Han Yan, please return to your own peak. Once one enters the way of heartlessness, the past should vanish like dissipating mist. I will no longer be shackled by the word love. Han Yan left Wendao Peak, appearing like a lost soul. Arriving at Kongjin Peak, she passed the training grounds. The disciples there bowed to her, one after another. Sect Master. Han Yan nodded, intending to move on, but she was stopped by one of the disciples. Sect Master, where have you been? Senior brother Ruo Chen has been looking for you, saying you had vanished. Thinking of Ruo Chen's anxious face, Han Yan suddenly felt a wave of irritation. I understand. I will go see him now. Despite her words, she turned and walked in the opposite direction. In truth, Han Yan did not know where she should go. Her mind was a chaotic mess. She was subconsciously avoiding him, walking aimlessly and dejectedly. My voice kept echoing in her mind, sentence after sentence, so cold and heartless. There was no love left. Even the hatred had completely dissipated. I no longer loved her. I had truly and completely let her go. Her heart suddenly constricted. A sharp, overflowing pain washed over her. Han Yan stopped her pace. Looking up, the place before her eyes was incredibly familiar. It was the bamboo house where I used to live. Now, it had become the place where Ruo Chen raised his spirit cranes. Han Yan suddenly let out a bitter laugh. She remembered a time long ago. She had built this bamboo house specifically for me. I was someone abandoned at a mass grave. To put it politely, it was a burial mound. To put it bluntly, it was a pile of corpses. That year, the mortal world suffered a total crop failure. Amidst the heavy snowfall, the starved lay dead everywhere. The officials could do little more than collect the bodies, carting them away to be piled in the outskirts. Some families could not afford to raise their children, so they used the cover of night to toss them into the piles of the dead. Han Yan had chased an evil spirit to that very mass grave. There, she saw a wailing infant boy. His cries were loud and piercing. His eyes were covered with a strip of black cloth. Han Yan knew exactly what it meant. The eyes of an abandoned infant are covered, because the family fears the child will remember the way home and recognize who abandoned them, only to return for revenge. Anger welled up in her heart. Han Yan could not stand by it and watch a life wither away. She thought of bringing me back to Kongjin Peak, perhaps to be an outer disciple or a simple servant. She held the infant boy in her arms and reached out to remove that black cloth. In the next moment, she locked eyes with a pair of crystal clear, pure eyes. The moment he saw Han Yan, the infant boy stopped crying instantly. His tears turned into a smile. It was as if the howling winds around them had suddenly ceased, and spring flowers began to bloom. Han Yan's heart softened in that very moment. From now on, your name shall be Xian Qing. She brought me back to Tang Qiam Fong, but I was not just some chore boy disciple. She brought me directly to live at her own residence, because I had been abandoned in a mass grave. The lingering resentment of the dead clung to me, refusing to dissipate. Han Yan built this bamboo cottage with her own hands. The hollow bamboo could absorb the malevolent spirits and evil energy, keeping me safe and sound. She placed protective arrays throughout the cottage to ensure my safety, allowing me to live in comfort and peace. I still remember when I first moved in. Han Yan was so worried. She stayed by my side every single night. Back then, her eyes were clearly filled with nothing but me. My heart aches. Suddenly, the cry of a crane broke my train of thought. It was the spiritual crane Ruo Chen raised here. Since then, I have been driven away. She was the one who personally cast me out. And along with me, she cast away that version of myself who loved her with all my heart. Once a successor was chosen, the sect leader began his secluded meditation to strike at the heavenly way. He handed over full authority for all matters, great and small, to me. I knew this was both a trial and a declaration to all that I was the heir to the sect leader. But handling the affairs of every peak daily still keeps me busy from dawn till dusk. I have occasionally heard news about Tang Qiam Fong from others. The wedding was called off. Han Yan announced she was entering secluded cultivation. It seems her Dao heart has been damaged. A disciple from Xuanji Peak said to me, in a joking manner, Senior brother Xian Qing, I heard the Sword Elder's current state is all because of you. Don't you want to go and see her? I paused for a moment, focused. No need. Those were my honest thoughts. Hearing about all those complicated and trivial matters, my first reaction was merely a sigh. The kind of sigh an onlooker gives when watching a farce. I simply scoffed twice and turned to leave, throwing everything I just heard to the back of my mind. The past grievances, the resentment, the unrequited love, none of it matters to me anymore. It was as if everything had just vanished. I received no more news from Tang Qianfang. It was as if no karmic bond had ever existed between us. After I took over, the sect leader checked in a few times at first. Seeing that I handled everything flawlessly, he decided to enter complete seclusion. He even entrusted me with the management of the sect's secret realm. The secret realm is rich in resources, with rare herbs and all manner of spirit beasts. Some have even found divine weapons that appear only once in a millennium. The Tianyan sect's secret realm opens once every 5 years. Disciples from every house wait for it with bated breath. And I too was to enter. On the day the barrier opened, I stood guard at the entrance. Xuanji Peak, Lingzhu Peak, Longding Peak. It was not until the entrance was about to close that I saw the people from Tang Qianfang arriving late. I barely looked up at them. First come, first served. The treasures in the realm are already scarce. Do not miss the appointed hour next time, lest you waste your opportunity for nothing. In the past, I was always the one responsible for organizing the secret realm's opening. Without me this time, Kongjin Peak is falling apart like a house of cards. I only gave a casual reminder, but Zanzheng, standing nearby, instantly flared up in rage. Xianqing, what do you have to be so arrogant about? So what if you cultivate the way of heartlessness? You only chose that path because Master abandoned you. You are just a pathetic soul whom nobody wants. Before he could even finish his sentence, Zanzheng was sent flying by a powerful force. I did not even bat an eyelid, creating a disturbance for no reason, and behaving with such crude arrogance. There is no need for you to go anymore. Go to the discipline hall and reflect in silence. Zanzheng was seething with indignation and wanted to argue further, but I did not spare him another glance. Han Yan arrived in a graceful manner, witnessing exactly this scene. However, she did not plead for Zanzheng. A mistake must be punished. I paid her no more attention, remembering the sect leader's instructions. The sect leader predicted a hidden great demon within the secret realm and ordered you to accompany me to capture it. As the sword-wielding elder, Han Yan's cultivation is the most formidable. Working together, there is no fear of failing to subdue it. I turned to enter the secret realm, but was held back by Han Yan. Han Yan avoided my gaze, seemingly intent on dodging my eyes. You do not need to avoid me. I have thought things through these past few days. If I am but a burden to you, then I shall not trouble you any longer. She still thought I was trying to stay out of her way. I gazed at her calmly and simply nodded in response. Fine, I hope she can walk the talk. The two of us explored, one after the other, only to see a crowd gathered ahead. I stepped forward. What are you all looking at? A disciple replied. Senior brother Xianqing, the 1,000-mile marriage tree has appeared. Indeed, I saw a peach tree so massive it would take 3 people to span its trunk. Someone nearby remarked with emotion. The 1,000-mile marriage tree is a divine opportunity. If its destined person stands beneath it, it will reveal that person's fated match. It is a pity that not everyone gets the chance. Otherwise, I would love to see who my cultivation partner is. Amidst the chatter, I looked at the tree, feeling that something was amiss. Before I could speak a warning, Ruo Chen stepped directly under the tree. Suddenly, the peach tree reacted. Its entire form emitted a faint golden light, gradually forming words in the air. Ruo Chen, Han Yan, destined by fate. The crowd immediately erupted in gasps of surprise. Ruo Chen was beaming with joy, turning back to call for his master. Han Yan's expression did not look particularly good, but she still stepped forward slowly. But as soon as she drew near, the glowing words suspended in the air instantly began to twist. Finally, under everyone's bewildered gazes, they changed into a different phrase. Han Yan, Xianqing, 3 lifetimes of love, a match made in heaven. The words floated silently in the air. The surroundings fell into an instant dead silence. For quite a while, someone finally broke the silence in a daze. What on earth is going on? How can the sword-wielding elder's name be linked to both of them? I recall the prophecy of the marriage tree. Most records only show connections across 2 lifetimes, past and present. This is the first time a destiny spanning 3 lifetimes has appeared. A bond of 3 lifetimes is ordained by heaven. What an incredibly profound destiny this is. No wonder Ruo Chen was completely overshadowed. The crowd continued to gossip and chatter. The color drained from Ruo Chen's face. His eyes turned bloodshot. He reached out to grab Han Yan's hand. Master, you promised me that you would stay with me forever. He was waiting for Han Yan to take a stand. After all, having lost so much face on the day of the grand wedding, he desperately needed to reclaim his dignity. Ruo Chen asked cautiously, yet in my heart, I felt no lingering attachment. In the past, whenever it came down to a choice between the two of us. I had never once won against him. But beyond all expectations, Han Yan did not even spare him a glance. She only stared fixedly at the words in the air. Destiny ordained by heaven. This single phrase was like a long-awaited rain after a drought, drenching her withered heart with life, and igniting a flicker of hope once more. If this truly is a destiny of 3 lifetimes, then perhaps our story has not reached its final end yet. Han Yan turned her head, just about to say something, when she saw me step forward. Everyone, do not linger here any longer. The mystic realm will close in 2 hours. Please seize your opportunities while you can. As soon as I finished speaking, I unsheathed my sword with a swift swing. A trail of sword chi slashed through, cutting the floating words in half. They dissolved into scattered specks of light, and that ancient marriage tree vanished before our eyes in an instant. Everyone looked at each other in bewilderment, having no choice but to disperse like startled birds. Ruochen waited for Han Yan for a long time without response, and ran away in disappointment. I was about to leave, but Han Yan stopped me. She had lost her usual cold and distant demeanor. The corners of her eyes were red, looking like a small, abandoned animal. Do you despise me that much, that you can't even stand to see your name listed beside mine? I paused for a moment. Just now, I truly had not given it much thought. I was simply fulfilling my duty, not wanting to waste time. Moreover, those flowery words of destiny, I did not care for them at all. Seeing Han Yan in such a state, I still stopped my pace. In that case, I have something to ask the sword-wielding elder. Ask anything, and I shall answer. Han Yan spoke with firm resolve. She believed, whether I asked about her feelings in the past or now, she could tell me everything. Or perhaps, if I asked to start over, she would choose me again without a moment's hesitation. But I only remained silent for a while, then replied in a calm tone, if things were different back then, and you had encountered this tree before you expelled me from Hidden Sword Peak, what would you have done? Han Yan was stunned. She had 1,000 words she wanted to say, but at this moment, she could not utter a single syllable. All the promises she had prepared felt as light as a feather, because Han Yan knew the truth too well. If it were a little earlier, before I had realized my own feelings, seeing this tree, I would have only done one thing. Just like me, the sword would be snapped. Everything around was deathly silent, so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. I waited patiently, yet Han Yan's answer never came. Or perhaps, the moment she fell silent, I already knew the answer. It was no surprise. There was no pity, nor any disappointment. Like a pebble falling into a lake, it only stirred a few ripples before vanishing. I stood firmly before Han Yan, and knelt down with great solemnity. This bow is to repay the debt of saving my life. I thank the Sword Elder for bringing me back from the mass grave. In the past, I truly did adore you, but 81 days at Schwanchen Icefall have long since washed away my feelings for you. Now, I no longer wish to be entangled in the past. I only seek to reach the peak of the way of the sword. Just consider the Xianqing you saved to be dead. Having finished, I waited no longer, and turned to leave, leaving Han Yan standing there alone. She turned back in a daze, only able to see my retreating figure, just like the day I left Kongjin Peak. That thin silhouette looked as if a gust of wind could blow it over, yet every step was incredibly firm. I do not want her anymore. She wounded me too deeply, letting me down time and time again, until I finally gave up. Not until this very moment did Han Yan finally understand. It was not the way of heartlessness that removed her from my heart. She brought this on herself, pushing me away completely over and over again. I am sorry. The words scattered in the breeze, drifting away with the wind. I could not hear them, leaving everything behind. I had already gone far away. She does not deserve to say she is sorry. I searched the secret realm alone, turning almost the entire place upside down, but found no sign of the hidden great demon the sect leader mentioned. While I was doubting, I heard bursts of cheering in the distance. Approaching, I saw it was the disciples of Kongjin Peak. They had spontaneously gathered in a circle. Nice. Beautifully done. Don't let it die just yet. Watch it try to run. Senior brother Ruo Chen is amazing. He even has a snake demon wrapped around his finger. I frowned. Walking closer, I saw it was Ruo Chen's spiritual crane flapping its wings in the circle. On the ground lay a small limp snake, barely breathing. There are many low-level spirit beasts in the secret realm. From its appearance, this little snake was likely one of them. If it were a normal slaying of a monster, I would not care, but seeing them treat it like a cruel game, I interrupted with a cold voice. All things have spirits. You must not toy with living beings. Seeing it was me, the crowd lowered their heads one by one. Yet Ruo Chen remained defiant. Cruelty to spirit beasts, you do not care about that. I was just having some fun with this little snake. I know exactly why. Senior brother, it is just because Master favors me, that you are jealous and try to suppress me at every turn. You are just using your status to bully me. Fine, if it is such a big deal, I will just leave. It seems there is no longer a place for me in the Tian Yan sect. I have grown accustomed to seeing that aggrieved look of his. Yet, I have no desire to pay him any mind. Fortunately, I hold the status of the sect leader's successor. After Ruo Chen spoke a few words, he could only leave resentfully. Once the crowd dispersed, I knelt down and cradled the small snake demon in my hands. Snake demons are spiritual beasts. Spiritual beasts possess a soul. Seeing the situation, the little snake demon knew it had been saved. It feebly wagged its tail at me. I gave a faint smile, observing the little creature in my palm. It must have only recently taken its form. The little snake demon was no longer than a forearm, its body jet black and shimmering. It was quite a fine-looking spiritual beast. I took out the medicine I carried with me and applied a few drops to its wounds. The injuries began to heal rapidly. The little snake demon instantly became lively, even coiling itself directly around my wrist, transforming itself into a pitch-black snake-shaped jade bangle. It was the ritual of a spiritual beast claiming its master. I was taken aback, feeling somewhat helpless. I had thought about raising a spiritual beast before, but I was always overwhelmed by the variety of choices. I could never make up my mind. Later, as various events unfolded, the matter was pushed aside indefinitely. I never expected that today I would be the one chosen, much like when I found the Chen Yuan sword at the sword mound. Reflecting on this, I unsheathed the Chen Yuan sword, holding it up to examine it closely. Lately, I have been practicing my sword skills daily. Chen Yuan has gradually shed its ordinary appearance. Intricate patterns began to surface, exquisite and ancient. One could tell at a glance that it was no ordinary blade, yet I still could not trace its origins. I simply attributed it to good fortune and fate. Now, encountering this little snake demon, I did not think I would stumbled upon a treasure again. It was simply our destiny to meet, so I might as well accept it. Those things that should not have been, have already been left in the past. From now on, every day is a new beginning. After returning to the Tian Yan sect, new rumors began to spread. Have you heard? Senior brother Xianqing knelt before the sword elder. He said all debts and grudges are now settled. How can things be that easy in this world? The sword elder saved his life, after all. A mere bow of the knee cannot possibly repay such a debt. Don't the stories say one should repay a life-saving grace with one's own body? How can Xianqing just call it quits, as expected of the way of heartlessness? So cold and devoid of any gratitude or emotion. It is better not to provoke someone like him. Gossip was everywhere. In the eyes of others, I had fallen from grace into the abyss once again. But let them slander me as they wish. Their words could never reach the heights of Wudao Peak. At that moment, I was reporting the situation of the mystic realm to the sect leader. I searched the mystic realm for a long time, but found no trace of the spirit beast. Master, would you like to perform another divination? I asked. The sect leader did not answer. He only watched me in silence, his gaze falling upon my left hand. Around my snow-white wrist hung a snake-shaped bangle. I was puzzled. Master, is something wrong? The sect leader withdrew his gaze, but he said nothing more. If it is gone, there is no need to seek it. All things in the universe have their own destiny. I did not press further. Yes, after speaking, I did not leave. The sect leader looked up. Is there anything else? I hesitated before speaking. Master, have you ever heard of the 1,000-mile marriage tree? Thinking of the scene I witnessed in the secret realm, my mind was a chaotic tangle of thoughts. The sect leader did not ask, quietly waiting for me to speak for myself. After a long silence, I took a deep breath. Master, do you think that if one walks the way of heartlessness, will they still be bound by the red strings of fated marriage? The words 3 lives, 3 worlds stung me deeply. I truly did not wish to have come this far, only to be forced back to the start by some preordained fate. But if I am destined by the heavens to be unable to cultivate, condemned only to sink into the abyss of love without escape, it is impossible for me not to be afraid. I fear all my efforts will vanish into thin air. Worse, I fear returning to that messy entanglement of the past. I have grown indifferent to my former feelings, yet I have never forgotten the past. Back then, every time Hanyan neglected or abandoned me, the pain felt like 10,000 arrows piercing my heart. I do not want to experience that ever again. The sect leader said nothing, but handed me a medicinal pill. Some things cannot be told by others. You must seek the answer yourself. Tonight is the full moon. Take this. Rest under the moonlight, and you shall find the answer you seek within a dream. Many thanks, Master. I looked at the inconspicuous brown pill in my hand, secretly clenching my fist. Night fell. A golden full moon hung high in the sky. I found the highest cliff, sat cross-legged at its edge, and swallowed the pill. I closed my eyes. I felt my body becoming heavier and heavier, yet my soul seemed to drift upward, as if floating beyond the 9 heavens. In an instant, I seemed to reach a barrier. The surroundings were a chaotic void, piled high with thick mist, blocking my line line of sight. My body flew uncontrollably toward the chaos. Opening my eyes again, the world around me had changed. It was the scene of a mortal imperial palace. The moon in the sky was dyed blood red. The entire imperial city outside was empty. A thick scent of blood permeated the air. I lowered my head, only to see corpses piled beneath my feet like mountains. I focused my mind. I knew this was the effect of the pill from the sect leader, but I knew not where I was. Only the sound of firelight came from the distance, the clashing of steel and swords, a sound that made one's heart tremble. I could not help but walk closer. Two figures stood atop the city tower. One wore armor, standing guard in front. The other, dressed in white, followed closely behind. A great army pressed against the city walls. Clearly, it was a palace coup. I felt a strange familiarity, knowing I could not be seen by others. I ventured even closer, but then I froze in my tracks. The person standing on the city wall was no stranger. It is actually Han Yan and me. It was not until I saw those two identical faces that I suddenly understood. This is actually my past life. It seems this is what was written upon the marriage tree, an affinity spanning 3 lifetimes. The sect leader wanted me to see this for myself, and then make my own decision. During the standoff, beneath the city gates, the enemy general shouted his ultimatum. The Emperor of you is faint-hearted and incompetent. Even if you, General, have the power to move mountains and seas, you cannot save this nation. I respect you as a talent of great worth. Surrender immediately, and my great Liang will certainly treat you well. Han Yan tightly gripped the spear in her hand. As long as I am in Great Yu, I will protect it with my life. Today, even if I am the only one left, I will never let you take a single step inside. The enemy general gave a cold laugh. What a noble and unyielding spirit. In that case, I shall give you one chance. I have long heard that Yu's imperial advisor is an immortal descended to earth. Hand him over, and I will withdraw my troops at once. I watched as Han Yan was about to retort, but was pulled back by the version of me standing behind her. Han Yan, enough. His face was deathly pale. He held Han Yan's hand firmly. As the imperial advisor, sacrificing myself for the nation is my destiny. Do not stop me anymore. There is an array set upon the city walls. If I offer my body as a sacrifice to the state, then we can— No. Han Yan interrupted him, her voice unwavering. How could I hide behind you, watching you go to your death? Today, even if I fall in battle, I will protect you. She made her decision, just as she was about to call her elite troops for one last stand. A white-clad figure beside her charged forward. He leapt from the wall. Ah-ching! Han Yan rushed to the edge of the wall, reaching out her hand, but it was in vain. She could only watch as the white figure fell heavily to the ground, a blood-red flower blooming upon the earth. Afterwards, the sky grew mournful and as bright as day. In the middle of midsummer, heavy snow began to fall like goose feathers. The snow drifted down throughout the entire night, driving the enemy troops back, and covering the broken body beneath the city walls. Everything seemed as if it had never happened. The city gates opened. Han Yan, covered in blood, stumbled as she walked out. She knelt before a mound of snow, digging through it with her bare hands, unearthing his broken body. The surrounding snow was stained a dark crimson. Ignoring the grime, she held him tightly, as if they were the only 2 people left in the world. Tears fell one by one, carving small pits into the snowy ground. They were colorless at first, but gradually turned blood red. They became tears of blood. I stood there watching, as Han Yan sat in the snow, cradling my corpse. Or perhaps, the 2 of them were leaning closely against each other. I watched in silence for a long time, watching as Han Yan gradually grew calm. She stood up, and drew her long sword. The blade shimmered with a cold light, reflecting a pair of eyes filled with grim resolve. Those eyes were a void of desolation, like the cold ashes left after a fire has burned out. Aching, in this life, I have failed you. I let you sacrifice your life for the country. Han Yan murmured to herself, her voice trembling violently. If there is a next life, I will surely give my all to protect you. The moment the words fell, she did not hesitate to draw the sword across her throat. She died on the spot. Crimson blood mingled with the old, darkened stains, staining the entire ground red. Han Yan could no longer support herself, and collapsed to the ground, using the very last of her strength. She pulled me into a tight embrace. The light in her eyes gradually faded, yet a relieved smile played on her lips. Han Yan lowered her gaze, placed a kiss upon my forehead, and held me tightly in her arms. Aching, if there is a next life, if we can start over, I will never fail you again. Snow began to fall from the sky again, but not like the raging storm of last night. Only a few scattered flakes drifted down, as if someone were mourning in silence. Before I could react, the scene before me twisted rapidly. I returned once more to the absolute void. Stunned for a long time, I closed my eyes, feeling a coldness upon my face. The memories of my past life were so vivid that even though I now walk the way of heartlessness, I could still feel that stabbing pain in my heart. But before the heartache could dissipate, the scene before me changed again and again. Yan to an entirely different place, a mortal palace, the Golden Throne Hall. Han Yan, dressed in the attire of a crown princess, stood before me. Father Emperor, my mind is made up. In this life, I will marry no one but Xianqing. At that time, I was dressed in foreign robes, refined and elegant. I stood behind Han Yan. On the dais, the emperor was furious. He slammed the table with a thunderous bang. He is a foreigner. What right has he to be the imperial son-in-law and the future prince consort? The Duke of Pei's family has distinguished military merits, and his youngest son has long admired you. He is the best candidate for your husband. Han Yan was silent for a moment, but she did not compromise. She knelt before the emperor, kneeling upright and straight, her back as unyielding as a pine tree. If it is as father says, there are many men in the capital who admire me. If I must bring someone into the princess's manor just because of their feelings, would I not end up with a harem of beautiful men? The emperor reached the peak of his rage and hurled a scalding teacup with all his might. Insolent girl. Han Yan did not dodge, taking the blow head-on. Scalding tea mixed with blood trickled down from her forehead. The porcelain cup shattered into pieces on the floor, yet her voice remained firm. In this life, I will marry no one but Xianqing. I beg father to grant us your blessing. On that very day, the emperor flew into a majestic rage and cast both of us out of the palace. I held Han Yan's hand tightly, my eyes brimming with tears. Han Yan, I am but a person of lowly status. To put it bluntly, I am nothing more than a captive. To have known you, and to have shared your love, is a blessing that spans 3 lifetimes. My voice was heavy with worry. Xianqing has never once aspired to be the prince consort. I only asked to remain by your side as a mere attendant, or even as a slave. As long as I can look upon you, it is enough. But Han Yan reached out to lift me up, her tone filled with unwavering resolve. Ah Ching, do you believe in past and present lives? The moment those words were spoken, watching from the sidelines, I froze instantly, my heart trembling within. I watched as Han Yan continued. From the very first moment I laid eyes on you, I knew deep down, in this life, you are the only one I will ever love. I never used to believe in love at first sight, yet such a twist of fate happened to me. I think, perhaps in a past life, I already loved you with all my soul. She gripped my hand firmly. In this lifetime, I shall marry no one but you. Han Yan was a woman of her word. Even though the emperor forbade it, she persisted and held her ground. She achieved great military feats abroad, yet refused to compromise on her marriage. 7 years passed in the blink of an eye. The emperor passed away, and Han Yan was supported to take the throne. The grand coronation and the investiture of the empress's consort fell on the same day. It was also the wedding night for the two of us. Dragon and phoenix candles flickered, symbolizing eternal joy. Han Yan sat in her crimson bridal robes, her face hidden by a veil, waiting on the bed for her beloved husband. Clad in my wedding attire, I walked in step by step. Approaching her with trembling hands, I lifted the veil and held Han Yan in a tight embrace. She embraced me back, her eyes turning slightly red, her voice shaking uncontrollably. Ah Ching, I have finally married you. What answered her was an even tighter embrace, and a dagger plunged into her heart from behind. Han Yan, I am sorry. I broke away from Han Yan's embrace, avoiding her bewildered gaze. Struggling, I walked toward the window. Han Yan's fresh blood stained the bridal robes, turning them a deeper, darker red. Taking out the signal flare I had prepared long ago, I closed my eyes. I am a spy trained by the state of Yan. From the day I first approached you, it was all to eliminate you. My family died a tragic death because of your kind. I loathe all of you cold-blooded monsters to the core. Watching the signal flare burst in the sky, only then did I let my heavy tears fall. But I have truly fallen in love with you. Witnessing the sudden, violent change before me, my heart shuddered with shock. There was nothing I could do, except watch like a bystander who had no part in this. Watching everything unfold with wide eyes, by the window. After throwing the signal flare, I returned to the bedside. I held Han Yan tightly once more, as the great army of Yan reached the city gates. They are about to break in. This is a battle you cannot win. Han Yan coughed up a violent mouthful of fresh blood. The light in her eyes began to flicker and dim. She looked at me, though the light in her eyes had already faded. She still managed to smile. Xianqing, do you think that because Yan State won the siege, they will regard you as a hero? Will they even let you live? I shook my head. My voice was calm. They never intended to spare me, and I never planned on surviving anyway. I picked up the blood-stained dagger once more. Without a moment's hesitation, I drove it straight into my own heart. Han Yan, you once spoke to me of past lives and present incarnations, of a destiny written in the stars. I think, in this life, I have failed you. In the next, I won't even be worthy of standing by your side. I held Han Yan tightly in my arms. Tears fell beyond my control. Han Yan, why must there always be such chaos standing between us? Why were we fated to cross swords? If there is a next life, I only wish for you to be a celestial being in the heavens, a cultivator on the path of Tao. Please, Do not encounter me again. Han Yan, I love you. I wept until my voice broke into silent sobs. But Han Yan smiled, a smile of complete relief. With her last ounce of strength, she pulled me into her embrace. Then in the next life, let us both be celestials. We won't have to be dragged down by these worldly ties, so that you can be with me without any inhibitions. Xianqing, I love you too. She spoke as she forced herself upright, throwing that dagger out of the window. Ah Qing, don't think about those things anymore. Tonight is our wedding night. Won't you come and hold me? Outside the window, it was a scene of desolation. Screams of surrender and wails of agony filled the air. But inside the room, the two were simply locked in a tight embrace. Blood flowed from their hearts, hidden within the deep crimson of their wedding robes. By the bedside, the dragon and phoenix candles burned throughout the night, symbolizing a lifetime of harmony and love for the couple. Yet the newlyweds embracing by the bed, on this very wedding night, looked as though they had merely fallen asleep. Only the blood slowly pooling on the floor told the truth, blooming like a dark flower in the dead of night. I watched silently, until the surrounding scenery began to recede once more. Only then did I realize, amidst the chaos, I clutched my chest, feeling a very real, piercing pain. I murmured to myself, the first life, the national teacher of a fallen kingdom, sacrificing oneself for the country, the general dying for love, the second life, meticulously plotting for years. On the day of the great wedding, a sincere heart was crushed into pieces. And now it is the third life, just as they had hoped. They finally escaped the entanglement of war and hatred, and the feeling of being puppets of fate. But why has it still come to this? A sharp sting shot through my wrist. In a flash, I was jolted back to my senses. Opening my eyes, I found myself standing right on the edge of a precipice. Mist and clouds swirled beneath my feet. Half a step further, and I would have plunged into the bottomless abyss, shattering every bone in my body. A cold sweat broke out across my back. I took a step back, finally breathing a sigh of relief. Only those with heaven-grade divine swords or top-tier spirit roots possess the ability to fly with a blade. With a mediocre mixed spirit root like mine, and an obscure little blade like Chen Yuan, falling down would only turn me into a pile of mangled flesh. Had it not been for that sharp sting on my wrist just now, I am afraid I would have vanished into thin air by now. I lifted my wrist, and saw two faint marks on it, resembling snake fangs. Looking at the snake bangle on my wrist, a faint smile touched my lips. I never expected the little snake demon I saved on a whim would help me so much. Thank you. After resting for a moment, I stood up to leave. When I returned to my quarters, I found a large dark crowd already gathered at the door. I furrowed my brows. As I drew closer, I saw that the person in the center was Ruo Chen. His eyes were bloodshot, and on the ground lay a spirit crane, its body covered in gruesome wounds. I asked them why they had gathered here. The moment Ruo Chen saw me, he instantly burst into uncontrollable sobs. Senior brother, I know you hate me. It is one thing to bully me on ordinary days, but how could you be so cruel to Jing Hong? Jing Hong was the name of his spirit crane. My brows knit slightly. Before I could even speak, Ruo Chen pointed at me, hurling accusations. You killed Jing Hong. Senior brother, give me your sword as an atonement for your crime. The surroundings fell silent for a moment, leaving only the sound of Ruo Chen's voice. I looked at the crowd before me, suddenly realizing what was happening. I had no idea that Ruo Chen would actually go to such lengths to get his hands on Chen Yuan. He would resort to such unscrupulous means. I gave a light cough and said, Wandao Peak is no place for your theatrics. If you continue to gather here and waste time, you will be punished according to the sect rules. I intended to dismiss this farce, but Zanzheng suddenly stepped forward. Xianqing, just because you are now the successor to the sect leader, do you think you can do whatever you want? Jing Hong was merely a spirit crane, completely innocent, treating life like grass. You are truly cold-blooded. You are unworthy of being the sect leader of our Tian Yan sect. His words ignited the crowd's fury. In an instant, the people around us began to shout in unison. Expel Xianqing from the Tian Yan sect. He is unworthy of succeeding the sect leader. Seeing the self-righteous indignation of everyone around me, a spark of anger gradually rose within my heart. You all claim so boldly that I killed the spirit crane, but do you have any evidence? Hearing this, Ruo Chen pointed a trembling finger at the crane, showing numerous spots on Jing Hong's body. Every single one was a bite mark, deep to the bone. There is also snake venom in its system. It must have been the work of that beast you keep. He pointed directly at the snake bangle on my wrist. Today, justice must be served. He must be dealt with according to the sect's laws immediately, just to vent his petty spite. Furthermore, that spirit crane was a gift from Master. It is incredibly precious. Senior brother, you could not afford to replace it, even if you tried. I do not wish to pursue this further, so long as I receive that sword as compensation. I observe him in silence. It seems, Ruo Chen is determined today. He is hell-bent on pinning this blame on me. I cannot even tell whether Ruo Chen's actions are aimed at me, or if he is after the Chen Yuan sword. However, no matter his intent, I simply cannot let him have his way. I raise my hand. The snake whip instantly transforms into a small serpent, no thicker than a thumb, coiling in my palm and trembling with fear. You claim the spirit crane was harmed by this creature. Then tell me, how could such a tiny snake possibly injure a spirit crane? Besides, within the secret realm, you commanded your spirit crane to torment this snake demon first. Suffering a backlash now is nothing more than poetic justice. Ruo Chen tries to argue back, but is cowed by my sheer presence. In an instant, his face turns deathly pale. I draw my longsword. Under the astonished gaze of the crowd, I speak coldly. Cruelly harming living beings within the secret realm. That is your first sin. Slandering others without regard for the truth. That is your second sin. Disregarding seniority and fabricating titles. That is your third sin. When your own spirit pet died, you showed not a shred of grief. Instead, you have been eyeing my sword as compensation from the very start. There is no compassion in your heart, only cold calculation. That is your fourth sin. For these combined transgressions, you shall report to the Hall of Discipline for punishment immediately, until you have truly repented. Ruo Chen's face turns white as a sheet, but as his gaze shifts beyond the crowd, he instantly puts on the facade of a wronged victim. Master, I turn around and see Han Yan emerging from behind the crowd, and right now, Ruo Chen is kneeling on the ground, while I stand before him, sword in hand. At first glance, it looks like a situation I can't talk my way out of. I sigh inwardly. A flash of irritation crosses my mind, yet I feel helpless. I can only watch as Ruo Chen, weeping like a delicate pear blossom in the rain, tells his fabricated version of the story to Han Yan. Though I am the sect leader's disciple, my status is roughly equal to Han Yan's. While she is present, I cannot punish a disciple of Tang Qiam Fong, recalling her countless instances of blind favoritism in the past. I hold no expectations at all. It is a good thing I have not suffered any real loss yet. As I think this, Ruo Chen has finished lodging his complaint. He cries out between sobs, "Master, you must seek justice for me." The surrounding disciples of Tang Qiam Fong also begin to chime in, acting as though they were the ones being bullied. I wait with a cold expression, mentally preparing to argue with Han Yan. But unexpectedly, Han Yan sweeps a frigid gaze over Ruo Chen and speaks in a freezing tone. "Everyone present today shall receive 30 strokes of the cane. The ringleaders who instigated this shall receive 60 strokes. It is my failure for not disciplining my disciples properly. Take 200 strikes of the discipline rod as punishment." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present closed their eyes in shock. Even I thought I was still trapped in an unawakened illusion. The crowd slunk away in dejection. I did not miss the flash of venomous resentment in Ruo Chen's eyes as he left, but I did not care. I only fixed my gaze upon Han Yan. "Elder, why did you do this?" Ever since glimpsing the entanglements of love and hate in our past lives, facing Han Yan again has become a complicated affair. In the first life, we both had our hardships and were victims of fate. In the second life, I failed Han Yan and betrayed her sincere heart. In this life, I have severed 7 of my love roots for her. It should have settled all our debts of gratitude and grudge. Yet I cannot stop this lingering sense of pity. Han Yan's eyes lowered slightly. Her tone carried a hint of desolation. "It is for nothing. It was my lack of discipline that allowed them to trouble you time and time again. I came here today, but not for those matters." As Han Yan spoke, she pulled a silk pouch from her sleeve. Embroidered upon it was a crude pattern of willow leaves and a heart. Han Yan asked, "Do you remember this? You gave this to me 14 years ago. I have kept it until now." Of course I remember. 14 years ago, I was only 6 years old. I went to the mortal realm with Han Yan. It was during the Shishi festival. The streets were extraordinarily lively. Everywhere were lovers confessing their feelings and promising their lives to one another. Holding Han Yan's hand, my young self was dazzled by the sights. I picked up a pouch from a stall. "Master, what is this?" Han Yan did not answer, but the stall owner beat her to it. "This is a silk pouch. It is used for carrying loose change and trifles. Some people buy them to embroider their own patterns, to give to the one they love." I immediately hugged it tight, refusing to let go. I pulled on Han Yan's hand, acting spoiled. "Master, a Ching wants it." Han Yan thought I liked those with flower patterns, but unexpectedly, I chose a plain one. Han Yan did not ask much. She simply paid for it, and took me back to Kongjin Peak. Little did she know, about half a month later, a silk pouch with an embroidered pattern suddenly appeared before her. My young self handed the pouch to Han Yan. On it was the very willow leaf and heart pattern the stall owner had shown us. I smiled with pure innocence. "The old uncle said it should be given to the one you love. The one a Ching loves most is Master." So a Ching made one for Master too. Han Yan's heart trembled, but then she saw the many small wounds on my hands. She became instantly anxious. "What happened to your hands?" Young Xian Ching, as if he had done something wrong, hurriedly hid his hands behind his back. "It is nothing, master. A Ching is not very good with needles. I just pricked myself a few times. It does not hurt anymore. As he spoke, he even imitated how Han Yan used to coax him during training. He began to blow on the wounds. Blow the pain away. Master said if you blow on it, it won't hurt anymore. He smiled so sweetly. Han Yan's heart softened completely at that moment. Now 14 years have passed. That silk pouch, though carefully preserved, it has faded quite a bit. Looking at those crude and clumsy stitches, I suddenly remembered the person I used to be, hiding in the small bamboo pavilion, stitching away by the flicker of a candle. Even when the needle pricked my finger, I would whisper to myself, Xianqing, it does not hurt. I must finish this gift for Master. Xianqing loves Master. Back then, my heart and soul belonged entirely to Han Yan. I let out a soft, mocking chuckle. I handed the tassel back to Han Yan. Elder, you must be joking. There is no need to bring these relics of the past before me again. What is done is done. The things of the past should not be brought back. I spoke every word with absolute conviction. Yet my heart did not stir with even the slightest ripple. The moment I emerged from the illusion, I understood the sect leader's true intention. I was trapped by the cycle of 3 lifetimes, always fearing that regrets from previous lives would make this current life a waste, leaving behind lingering regrets. That is why he let me return to the past to see for myself. After experiencing 2 lifetimes, did I truly want to continue? The way of heartlessness is extremely difficult to master, but abandoning it is incredibly simple. A single moment of emotion and a lifetime of cultivation vanishes instantly. In other words, if I wanted to, I could return to the way things were at any time. I could start over with Han Yan without any resentment, letting go of the past, letting go of everything, taking the regrets of past and present lives, and simply being together. But I am unwilling. I did see the events of the past, and I learned the truth of everything that transpired. I know that in those 2 previous lives, there was nothing between us but regret and pity, but that was then. I did indeed betray Han Yan when she loved me most, failing her sincere heart. But the blood feud I carried on my shoulders, the hatred of my fallen nation, should all that simply vanish because of love? In this life of cultivation, I may not understand much of the mortal world, but I know that when 2 nations go to war, human lives are treated like mere grass. I cannot, for the sake of my own petty love, disregard everything else. I cannot forget the path that brought me here. I knew I had wronged Han Yan, so I did not hesitate to die for her, even if I were to do it all over again. I could not have done any better than I did. The external grievances and karmic debts are no reason for me to keep loving Han Yan. After she hurt me time and time again in this life, the punishment at Xuanshan Icefall, the cold mockery and the neglect, the heartless expulsion from Sword Peak, and the sword she plunged into my chest without hesitation. Even for a cultivator, the heart's veins are extremely fragile. That strike from Han Yan, it was clearly meant to take my life. If I had not completely let go at that moment, if I had not severed my love roots while on the brink of death, allowing the way of heartlessness to shield my heart with spiritual energy, I would have died on the spot, died amidst boundless grievances. Han Yan saved me at the mass grave, then killed me with her own hands. I have already paid her back with my life. The life I have now is one I earned for myself. Han Yan, standing before me, did not give up though. Her eyes were bloodshot with tears, struggling to maintain his composure. Xianqing, how can you be so cold-hearted? Is it possible that all our past memories, and your own feelings, have all been forgotten? She refused to believe it, that the sincere love I held for her all those years could simply vanish into thin air. Her heart had already grown cold, but the moment she picked up that silk knot, the memories of the past came rushing back like a tide. She could not forget those times, yet she never expected that I could become so heartless. I did not offer an answer. I simply took out a journal. Han Yan's eyes twitched violently. This was the very book of love letters Ruo Chen had searched from my room. I spread the journal open. Every single word inside was a testament to my feelings for Han Yan. I found that specific page. Back then, Ruo Chen only showed you this one page. You were so enraged that you ordered me to the Xuanshan Icefall to wash away my filthy thoughts. So, what if you saw it all? I flipped through the pages one by one, exposing all my former secrets to the world. In 2 months, it will be Master's birthday. I must prepare a unique gift for her. I have already reached the golden core stage. I must not lose heart. I must work hard to stand by Master's side. Xianqing truly deeply loves Han Yan. Word by word, written with meticulous detail. I had poured my entire soul into these pages, but the moment my heart was laid bare, it was met with nothing but cruelty. Spilled Spilled water cannot be gathered again, and crumpled paper can never be made smooth. I do not want this anymore. I held the journal in my hands. Without a hint of hesitation, I ripped the pages out, shredding them into pieces. The fragments of paper fluttered to the ground, just like that heavy snowfall in my previous life. Han Yan's eyes instantly turned red with tears. Why? Her voice trembled uncontrollably. The regret was final. Xianqing, do you detest me that much? So much that you won't even leave a single memory behind. I nodded. Yes. The wind picked up the scraps on the ground. The small pieces of paper were blown into the air. A single dark brown fragment drifted and landed in my hand. The dark brown on the paper was not ink. It was mine. That day at Tangkang Peak, all the disciples were present. I was reporting on an important matter. At that time, I was still the respected first senior brother, handling almost everything on Tangkang Peak. I never imagined that just moments later, it would be the beginning of me losing everything. The moment Ruo Chen presented that journal, my first reaction was to flush with embarrassment. I simply thought that my secrets had been discovered, that my love for Han Yan could no longer be hidden. I never expected that a second later, the book would be hurled violently at me. I could not dodge in time, and the journal struck my forehead with force. As the book fell to the ground, bright red blood began to flow from my brow. I hesitated. I abruptly lifted my head, only to meet Han Yan's gaze, which was filled with utter loathing. You show no respect for your elders. It is high time your filthy mind was cleansed. In an instant, I plummeted from the clouds to the bottom of the valley, unable to ever crawl back up. The injustices that followed, even if not orchestrated by Han Yan herself, were carried out with her silent consent. I knew then that I was never the type of person who could let go easily, even if I were to pluck out my love roots, even if my heart was already dead. If Han Yan were to ever reach out her hand to me, I would return to her side without a second thought, disregarding all past grievances, to rekindle our old bond. But as fate would have it, Han Yan was never moved by me, not even for a fraction of a second. Bit by bit, I was cast out of Kongjin Peak, pushed away until I was completely gone. Han Yan looked at me, the light in her eyes dimming little by little. I understand now. She gave a tragic laugh, yet her eyes held a sense of relief. In the end, it is I who have failed you, and I who have failed the destiny of our 3 lifetimes. Perhaps in the previous 2 lives, I also failed to protect you properly, causing you such grievance. Having said her piece, Han Yan departed, heading to the Hall of Discipline to accept her punishment. I watched her leave. As I said, the past is in the past. There is no need to dwell on it further. I turned and left, returning to my own quarters. Beneath Wendao Peak lies a spiritual vein. The spiritual energy there is abundant. Since I took up residence here, my cultivation has increased by leaps and bounds. I had a vague feeling that I had reached a bottleneck. However, breaking through it seemed harder than ascending to the heavens. I could only wait with a calm heart, when suddenly, I heard a telepathic transmission from the sect leader. There seems to be a disturbance in Yuzhou in the mortal realm. Someone is using living sacrifices to nourish evil spirits. Go and handle it. Kongjin Peak used to handle such tasks, so I was long since familiar with them. I accepted the command, but did not head out immediately. I went to the Hall of Discipline. Han Yan had just finished her punishment and was walking out. She stood tall and straight, but her face was uncontrollably pale. Upon seeing me, a flash of surprise crossed her eyes. I stepped forward and handed her a bottle of golden sore ointment. Before Han Yan could speak, I cut her off. The sect leader asked me to give this to you. He said not to let your injuries become too severe, so that you may properly reorganize Kongjin Peak. I spoke the plain truth. After saying it, I left, not noticing the lingering, complex gaze behind me. But even if I had noticed, I would not have cared. As I reached the gates of the Tian Yan sect, I was suddenly struck by a dilemma. Yuzhou is thousands of miles away from the Tian Yan sect. Even if I were to ride like the wind and push myself to the limit, it would still take 10 days to a fortnight. By then, let alone stopping the ritual, other sects would likely have beaten me to the punch, and I must stop the mortal world from falling into chaos. It is to protect all under heaven. Secondly, it is because of karmic fate. Slaying auspicious beasts and purging evil spirits all are matters of destiny. I cannot let other sects beat me to the punch. Just as I was at my wit's end, the Chen Yuan sword behind me suddenly unsheathed itself. It hovered steadily right before my eyes, as if struck by a sudden epiphany. 2 words surfaced in my mind: sword flight. The moment this thought popped into my head, I immediately snuffed it out. My spirit roots are not strong enough for sword flight, and Chen Yuan is not some divine blade that can fly without the need for spiritual energy. I intended to refuse, but Chen Yuan seemed to have gained a mind of its own, determined to proceed. It lowered itself, flying very close to the ground, almost grazing the earth. Its hilt gently tapped against my boots repeatedly, as if saying, "Come on, I can do this." I could not help but let out a short laugh. Resigning myself to fate, I stepped onto it. Instantly, Chen Yuan lost its strength and dropped to the ground. As expected, it was not possible. Just as I was about to step off, in the very next second, Chen Yuan began to wobble and sway as it rose into the air. I was utterly shocked. Looking at the sword beneath my feet, it was already several feet off the ground, and it was still ascending. I truly am capable of sword flight. After the initial tremor in my heart subsided, I watched the ground grow more distant, gazing at the horizon as my vision broadened, and excitement gradually took hold of me. The spirit roots required for sword flight are immense. Even though I have reached the peak of the way of heartlessness, it still cannot compensate for the lack. I had always thought that I would never be able to fly a sword in this lifetime. But now, looking down as every tree and blade of grass shrinks into a tiny dot, I took a deep breath. I can actually fly. I set flight toward Yuzhou, my silhouette streaking across the sky like a falling star, watching the small speck gradually vanish into the heavens. A look of realization flashed in the sect leader's eyes. He knew then that this child possessed a great destiny. It is an incomparable stroke of luck. It seems my hope of handing the Tianyan sect over to you is gone. The sect leader shook his head, his tone tinged with a hint of regret. You still have a very long road to travel. Chen Yuan's speed was incredible. In less than half a day, I landed steadily in Yuzhou. Even at such a high speed, the landing was so stable, it did not feel like my first time flying. No matter how slow I was to catch on, I realized something was off. I held Chen Yuan in my hand, questioning it as if we were face to face. Where exactly did you come from? Why were you buried, tattered and worn in the sword mound? How can you achieve sword flight like this? Why is there no record of you in the manual of 100 blades? And why did you choose me of your own accord? I had countless questions I wanted to ask, but Chen Yuan simply lay silently in my grip, unable to offer any answers. Helpless, I could only sheathe the sword and go search for the suspicious locations the sect leader mentioned, wearing a white silk-veiled hat to conceal my face. I entered a tea house and sat down quietly. I do not know who passed down this piece of wisdom, but one can always overhear extraordinary things in a tea house. But after listening for quite a while, aside from the petty gossip of the neighborhood, there was not a single shred of useful information. I had no choice but to get up and ask the shopkeeper. The shopkeepers, are there any unusual occurrences around here? The shopkeeper was a middle-aged man, likely in his late 40s. Upon hearing this, his expression stiffened for a moment. Young master, why do you ask? I replied briefly and concisely. I am just traveling through. I overheard some vague rumors and became curious. Even if they are mere tall tales, there is no harm in listening. Only then did the shopkeeper begin to open up to me. There is something you might not know, young master. In that forest to the east of Yuzhou, there is a mass grave. It was originally a den of bandits. They kidnapped a bride who was being wed in the city and dragged her up the mountain. They committed unspeakable, wretched acts against her. That bride was violated. That very night, she ended her own life. She was found hanging in the stronghold. Less than 3 days later, everyone in that stronghold was dead. They say the bride turned into a ghost to seek her revenge. Since then, whenever anyone enters those woods, they are never seen again. We all give that place a wide berth now. The shopkeeper clicked his tongue and shook his head. Then he returned to his business. I now had a sense of the situation. Heading toward the forest in the east, I feared drawing unwanted attention. I suppressed the urge to fly on my sword. Instead, I proceeded on foot. By the time I arrived, the night was deep and silent. The forest was shrouded in gloom, like a ferocious beast with its maw wide open, waiting to swallow someone whole. The wind whistled through the woods. The rustling of the leaves added an extra layer of eeriness to the scene. I stepped into the woods. After walking for a long while, I still saw nothing out of the ordinary. Just as I was wondering if it were all just rumors, something hard was suddenly pressed against my lower back. A woman's voice, as gloomy as a specter, sounded from behind me. You certainly are brave, young master, coming to this dense forest all alone. Could it be you wish to stay and be my husband of the stronghold? I froze. For an instant, my skin crawled. My cultivation is by no means weak. Among all the disciples of the Tianyan sect, I am the highest. I am even significantly stronger than some sect leaders of the alchemy and medicine sects. Yet someone had approached me from behind, and I had not noticed at all. I did not hear a single footstep. Moreover, though her voice rang right by my ear, I could not hear her breathing. It is an evil spirit. I reacted instantly. I leapt 2 steps away to create distance, drew the Chen Yuan sword and slashed ruthlessly at my previous spot. A wave of sword energy sliced through the air, cutting a thick tree clean in half. Leaves rained down, but there was no trace of the person. I gripped my sword tightly. No matter who you are, or what your purpose is, show yourself yourself. The moment I finished speaking, a demonic wind rose up before me. When I opened my eyes again, a woman was standing right there. She wore a crimson robe, yet it did not look the least bit vulgar. She was purely bewitching. Her long ink-black hair flowed behind her. Her pupils were golden. She had a pair of upturned fox eyes, and a crimson mark between her brows. She looked like one of those spirits from folk tales that devour the essence of men. I tightened my grip on the sword, but before I could speak, the eyes of the person before me narrowed slightly. Her tone suddenly turned cold and heavy. "You are from the Tian Yan sect." I was taken aback for a moment. What does that have to do with you? This place is thousands of miles away from the Tian Yan sect. Evil spirits and monsters do not usually wander here. She should not have known about the Tian Yan sect, but that person said nothing more. She only let out a sinister, cold laugh. "You do not need to know much. Anyone from the Tian Yan sect is an enemy of my Fox clan." As she spoke, she lunged at me again. After several rounds of fighting, my strength gradually began to fail me. The person before me is a fox demon. She is capable of taking human form. Every strike she makes is ruthless. She is a powerful fox demon who has cultivated for a long time. I am no match for her. Just as she was about to strike again, I intended to make my escape first, but unexpectedly, the snake bracelet on my wrist suddenly moved. It revealed its true form. The little snake demon stood protectively in front of me, flicking its tongue at the fox demon. Its face was full of vigilance. This act was no different from a mantis trying to stop a carriage. Not to mention, the little snake demon's injuries had not fully healed. Even if it were uninjured, it could never hope to withstand the fox demon. Just as I was about to pull it back, I saw the fox demon actually cease her movements. She sized me up with suspicion. Her gaze drifted between me and the little snake demon. "As a member of the demon race, you would actually protect someone from the Tian Yan sect. You are truly a disgrace to our kind. Step aside. Otherwise, I will finish off this traitorous snake demon along with him." Her words carried an immense crushing pressure. Anyone could tell she was not joking, but the little snake demon did not budge an inch, shielding me. The two demons stood there in a standstill. They seemed to be communicating in some unknown way. Before long, the fierce aura surrounding the fox demon suddenly weakened. I never would have thought that there was still someone righteous in the Tian Yan sect. The fox demon gave a cold laugh. I thought they were all backstabbing hypocrites. I realized there must be more to the story. What happened? The fox demon looked at the little snake demon, then looked back at me. For a moment, she smiled bitterly. 2 years ago, a human man trespassed into my fox clan's territory. He said he had been driven out and had nowhere else to go. He begged us to take him in. My father, who was the clan leader at the time, agreed. He allowed him to stay with the fox clan. He stayed with us for a year. We treated him more than fairly, yet he turned around and betrayed us. He even harmed my father, all just to obtain a fox heart. The fox clan is born with the art of charm. By absorbing my father's heart, he gained those powers instantly without effort. He made everyone fall in love with him. I went to confront him, but he was with a powerful cultivator. He claimed I was trying to kidnap him. That person believed his lies. They nearly wiped out the entire fox clan. Then they said they would take him back to the Tian Yan sect. For the past year, I have cultivated day and night, just for the day I could have my revenge. But why did I have to run into you? To have a demon protecting you, saying that you were the one who saved it. Only now do I truly understand. I remember it now. Ruochen followed Han Yan to Tangjian Peak. Exactly 1 year ago, everything lines up perfectly. The man the fox demon spoke of is indeed Ruo Chen. Just as I was about to speak, the fox demon walked right up to me. "I know you came because of the human sacrifices. Indeed, that was my doing. I can give that up. But in return, you must take me back to the Tian Yan sect to seek my revenge." In the silent night, a man and a fox stood facing each other. Yet my heart was surging like a restless tide. To be fair, I originally came here to neutralize the array. If I can resolve this without lifting a finger, nothing could be better. But to actually bring a fox demon into the Tian Yan sect. As I hesitated, the fox demon before me let out a cold sneer. "I know what is on your mind. You fear that once I enter the Tian Yan sect's barrier, I will go on a killing spree and bring the entire Tian Yan sect to ruin in an instant. Am I right?" I remained silent, but I did not deny it. That was exactly what I was thinking. The fox demon narrowed her eyes, as if sizing me up. After a long pause, the aura surrounding her suddenly weakened. "If you are worried, I can become your spirit beast. Once my revenge is complete, you can simply release me from the bond." I was stunned, finding it somewhat hard to believe. "What did you say? If we form a spirit beast bond, the fox demon must obey my every command. That would prevent her from harming the innocent. But once bound, it is equivalent to placing her very life in my hands. If she acknowledges me as master, whether or not she is ever freed depends entirely on me. Aren't you afraid I will go back on my word?" and never give you back your freedom. The fox demon gave a faint cold smile. I am the last of the fox clan. I have long been consumed by the fire of revenge. What does freedom even matter anymore? Even if you let me go, I would only return to my clan's ruins to end my own life. In this life, I have only ever trusted two people. One caused the destruction of my home and kin. As for the other, as she spoke, her golden eyes fixed on me, hauntingly beautiful. I want to take one last gamble. My heart skipped a beat, but I did not answer immediately. The little snake demon coiled tighter around my arm, seemingly urging me to agree. After a long moment, I finally nodded. Fine, I have no desire to be part of your grievances, but I cannot stand by and watch such a blatant injustice go unpunished, letting the wicked remain free. The fox demon said no more. She gazed at me in silence for a long time, then traced a seal in the air. I pricked my finger, letting a drop of blood merge into the seal. Thus, the fox demon became my spirit beast. My name is Fei Yan, the fox demon said, then pointed to the little snake demon in my hand. Its name is Zan Lin. It is the most powerful of the snake tribe. It just has not grown up yet. I looked at the little snake demon coiled in my palm, leaving its claim unconfirmed. After resting for the night, on the following day, I took Fei Yan with me and returned to the Tian Yan sect on my flying sword. To avoid unwanted attention, I chose to land at the back of the mountain, but as luck would have it, I ran straight into the disciples of Kongjin Peak. I had forgotten that at this time every month, Kongjin Peak holds its training sessions here. The moment they saw me landing on my sword, everyone was struck with shock. Meanwhile, a flash of resentment crossed Ruo Chen's eyes. He could not help but curse inwardly, vowing to seize that sword no matter the cost. Zan Zheng was the first who could not hold back and spoke up. When did you learn to fly a sword? What right do you have to even touch a flying sword? I turned a deaf ear to him. I could no longer be bothered to care about Zan Zheng's lack of manners. His words could no longer hurt me. Han Yan's heavy gaze fell upon Fei Yan, who stood behind me. Her eyes were filled with suspicion. Who is she? Fei Yan had disguised herself for the journey, hiding her golden pupils and her true robes. She looked merely like a woman of peerless beauty. Yet Han Yan remained wary. At the sight of Ruo Chen and Han Yan, Fei Yan could barely suppress the rage in her eyes. I knew it was not the right time for a showdown. Seeing the tension, I wanted to leave first. But Ruo Chen, oblivious to the danger, blocked our path. Senior brother, you are still one of us from Kongjin Peak. We have been companions for so many years. Must you treat everyone with such a cold shoulder, just because of me? He spoke with a feigned, heartbreaking fragility, trying to make me the target of everyone's scorn. But little did he know that those casual words were about to push him into the abyss. The stranger behind me suddenly stepped forward. In the blink of an eye, her appearance transformed. The moment Ruo Chen saw those golden pupils, it was as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. Fei Yan looked at him with icy eyes, as 9 foxtails revealed themselves one by one behind her. A Chen, you truly are beloved wherever you go. Only this time, are you going to use everyone's lives as a stepping stone for your own glory again? The moment those words were uttered, the crowd was instantly stunned. Ruo Chen's face turned deathly pale. He stammered as he tried to explain. What are you talking about? I do not even know you. Stop throwing such baseless accusations at me. He hid behind Han Yan, seeking her protection. Master, I truly do not know her. Could you please drive her away for a Chen? But Han Yan remained unmoved. Her eyes were now clear and piercing. She stared fixedly at me. What is the meaning of this? Seeing that there was no longer any point in hiding the truth, I decided to reveal everything I knew. As I finished speaking, the crowd immediately erupted into whispers. Could what she said be true? Is a Chen really that kind of person? How could a Chen do such a thing? He is the kind of person who would not even hurt a fly. With a heart so kind, how could he possibly do this? Has senior brother Xianqing been bewitched? This demon beast must be doing this on purpose. Zan Zheng was again the first to step forward. Who do you think you are? Coming here out of nowhere to smear a Chen's name. If you want to bully a Chen, you will have to get through me first. Saying that, he pointed his sword at me again. I knew you were up to no good, weaving such a massive web of lies, just to bully a Chen. You heartless, cold-blooded snake. He raised his sword and prepared to strike. But before I could even make a move, the Chen Yuan sword had already flown out to intercept the strike. Clang! With a sharp ring, Zan Zheng's sword was knocked clean out of his hand. Everyone's expression shifted in shock. Fei Yan looked at Ruo Chen, letting out a cold, mocking laugh. You have relied on my Fox Clan's charm techniques to bewitch these people for far too long. Did you really think you could just sit back and relax forever? Have you forgotten? Charm techniques originate from the Fox Clan, and only the Fox Clan can break them. As she spoke, Fei Yan snapped her fingers. A momentary daze clouded the eyes of everyone present. Immediately after, their vision cleared and regained its lucidity, yet it was replaced by a sense of utter confusion. What just happened? My head suddenly hurts so much. Why does it feel like something has left my body? My mind does not feel so foggy anymore. You are right. I have finally come to my senses. Why on earth were we following Ruo Chen's every word? Indeed, it felt like our hearts were clouded by grease before. So it really was a charm spell. I knew it. I always liked the senior brother more. The speakers stopped abruptly, panicked, covering their mouth and pointing forward. Oh no, Ruo Chen is trying to escape. Only then did everyone notice that Ruo Chen was already trying to make a run for it. Fei Yan effortlessly cut him off. Ruo Chen, when you slaughtered my entire Fox clan, did you ever think I would crawl back from the dead? Ruo Chen's face turned deathly pale. He collapsed to the ground, backing away in terror. Fei Yan, don't force my hand. I was also acting against my will. I had no choice back then. I just wanted to find a stable life for myself. I did not do it on purpose. Give me another chance, please. You used to like me the most, did not you? You will forgive me, right? His eyes were full of desperate hope, only to be coldly interrupted by Fei Yan. I used to think all humans were this ungrateful and cold-hearted, but it was not until I met Xian Qing that I realized the only detestable one was you. If you had not bullied that snake demon, I would not have tried to kill Xian Qing without question, and I never would have encountered you again. This is all your own doing. Fei Yan spoke no more, raising her hand to strike with a burst of spiritual power. Ruo Chen vanished on the spot, erased from existence. Such a wicked soul deserves no pity. Han Yan, who had remained silent, spoke coldly. There is no need to dwell on this further. The disciples of Tang Qian Peak followed her away, without a single glance back. All that remained was a lingering sense of regret. Favoritism that is stolen will only turn into doubled loathing when it backfires. Only Zanzheng took one last deep look, before running to catch up with the others, gripping his sword even tighter. The matter was settled faster than I expected. Since that is the case, I will escort you down the mountain and release our bond. From now on, you are free. Fei Yan turned to look at me, but my eyes held no warmth. But I have realized that even as your spirit pet, it seems you cannot truly restrain me. I furrowed my brow. What do you mean? Fei Yan's golden eyes were like shards of ice. What if I go back on my word? The scene suddenly falls silent. Only the whistling wind remains. Fei Yan sneers and questions me again. If I break my promise, and go on a killing spree within the Tian Yan sect, to let your people taste the agony of my Fox clan, think about what would happen to them. They would cry, they would hate, they would condemn you harshly, denouncing you as the culprit who brought this disaster upon them. Then, before your sect leader and elders join forces to slay me, I could drag hundreds, even thousands of disciples to the grave with me. If that happens, what will you do? Fei Yan speaks, watching me with a face full of mockery, searching for shock, panic, or rage upon my face, just as I had looked when I first saw her tragic state. But to her surprise, there is not a hint of astonishment on my face. In fact, I barely show any expression at all. I only say one thing indifferently. If you truly intend to do that, I will take my own life before it all begins. The deepest and heaviest bond between a spirit beast and its master is that once the master perishes, the spirit beast cannot live on alone. If I die, Fei Yan will also follow me into death. Why? Fei Yan is utterly shocked. You are actually willing to die for these people. Have you lost your mind? I continue to look at her calmly. I have not. Regardless of how they acted before, it was the result of being bewitched. Now that everything has ended, their lives should not be treated like mere grass. It was my mistake to trust you, and since there is a mistake, there must be a penalty. The one who errs must bear the consequences. I speak as light as a breeze, as if merely chatting about the weather, rather than my own life. The one who acts must take the blame. Fei Yan murmurs these words. Suddenly she laughs. Well said. The one who acts must take the blame. Xian Qing, it seems I have underestimated you. Let us go. I want to go back now. I do not know what Fei Yan is thinking. In short, she gave up on her residence. Or perhaps, she never seriously intended to do it. Just like a mischievous child acting out for attention. The two of us dissolved the contract outside the Tian Yan sect's boundary. Before leaving, Fei Yan gives me a deep lingering look. Farewell, Xian Qing. May our paths cross again. I watch her depart in silence. A day later, carrying a small bundle, I go to bid the sect leader farewell. I kneel and kowtow with solemnity. This disciple is grateful for the sect leader's guidance. However, my heart is clouded with confusion. I wish to venture out and seek the true way within my heart. I beg for the sect leader's permission. This disciple's heart remains with the Tian Yan sect. On the day of your ascension, you need only send word via messenger pigeon, and I shall surely return. The sect leader says nothing, as if he had long expected this. He gazes at me deeply for a long time. After a while, he turns around, leaving only the silhouette of his back. You should leave. By the time I reached the sect entrance, Han Yan had already arrived. She was still dressed in that same moon-white robe, looking no different from the day we first met. But between the two of us, everything had changed, and we were no longer who we used to be. Han Yan remained silent for a long while before speaking. Are you really leaving just like this? I nodded. There was nothing left here worth holding on to. I no longer seek to attain the Tao or ascend to the heavens. I only wish to wander the mortal world and uphold justice. Han Yan looked confused. You have cultivated for so long, and you are already the master of the way of heartlessness. Even I can hardly keep up with your progress. Are you going to give it all up just because of those past grievances? I gazed at her steadily, pronouncing every word clearly. My original purpose was always to save all living beings. If I only seek immortality and the Tao, would I not be betraying my original intent? The moment those words left my lips, the Chen Yuan sword behind my back suddenly unsheathed itself. Suspending in mid-air, the blade emitted a piercing white light, and a phantom figure with white hair, white brows, and a divine robe appeared amidst auspicious clouds. Recognizing the silhouette, Han Yan and I immediately knelt. Your disciples pay respects to the immortal exalt of Tian Yan. The immortal exalt of Tian Yan was the founding progenitor of the Tian Yan sect. The phantom of the immortal exalt hovered in the sky. I knelt on the ground, not even daring to breathe loudly. As the founder of the Tian Yan sect, his name was known to everyone in the entire cultivation world. I never expected the sword I had picked up at random from the sword tomb would be connected to the immortal exalt, let alone be able to summon a wisp of his divine consciousness. In the sky, the immortal exalt gazed fixedly at the two of us. Or more precisely, he was looking only at me. The intense golden light and fluctuations of spiritual energy drew everyone from the Tian Yan sect to the scene. One by one, they knelt down in the surroundings. Not a single whisper could be heard. Only countless stunned gazes lingered upon me. After a long silence, the immortal exalt finally spoke, his voice echoing beyond the 9 heavens. Chen Yuan chose you, because your heart is pure, without a single trace of malice. And what you just said was once my own ideal. It was a wish I could not fulfill, because I ascended to godhood too soon. No. Are you willing to inherit my mantle and walk this world in my stead? A simple yet exquisite folding fan drifted down from the sky, landing right in front of me. I bowed my head to the ground and spoke respectfully, carefully accepting the folding fan. Your disciple is willing. Half a year later, in the mortal town of Qingxi, inside a tea house, a masked storyteller was speaking with great eloquence. Legend has it that deep within the clouds lies the Tian Yan sect. Those of the sect take the cause of righteousness as their own duty. They cultivate diligently, just to wander this world as heroes, eradicating evil and protecting the innocent. One listener asked in confusion, but if that is so, why does the world's injustice never seem to fade? The storyteller stroked his non-existent beard. Cultivation is an arduous journey. Not just anyone can achieve it. In fact, after 100 years of waiting in the mortal realm, only one such person has truly appeared. That person wore a veiled bamboo hat. His figure was light and graceful, his swordsmanship unparalleled. Yet he always quietly withdrew after ridding the people of evil, hiding his merits and his name. Had it not been for his decisive intervention, the mortal emperors, ever obsessed with expanding their borders, would have left the commoners displaced, and the people in utter misery. His heart is set on the greater good, so naturally, he has no time for trivial matters. Yet he is the one who safeguards our peace. A youth spoke up indignantly. But how can we commoners care for the whole world? Those so-called trivialities are what weigh us down. The storyteller struck his gavel on the table. Not so. One person's strength may be small, no matter how great, but if everyone sets their heart on justice and stands up against inequality, life will naturally become peaceful and harmonious. The youth muttered to himself, seemingly lost in thought. Suddenly, he stood up. Then I shall also study hard and practice martial arts to eliminate the wicked and protect the good. He spoke with high spirits and rushed out. In a corner, wearing my bamboo hat, I suddenly smiled. This was the first time I would heard a storyteller who did not distort or exaggerate the truth. I placed a silver ingot on the table and rose to leave, but the storyteller came before me. Sir, what do you think of this humble one's storytelling? Looking at that mask, I stood still. Excellent. Thinking they were asking for a reward, I pointed at the silver on the table and turned to go, but the storyteller reached out and grabbed me. My brow furrowed. I carefully sized up the person in front of me. I have already paid for the tea. What else do you want? The storyteller slowly removed the mask, revealing a face of breathtaking beauty. It was Fei Yan. I raised an eyebrow. It is you. Fei Yan gazed at me intently, with eyes like burning embers. Xianqing, long time no see. I smiled faintly. Long time indeed. Why has such a renowned great fox demon turned to storytelling for a living? Fei Yan tilted her head, acting pitiful. Because I was not a good contract beast, and got kicked out. My master does not want me anymore. I said nothing, quietly watching her. After a long while, I finally spoke. Your charms are useless against me. I follow the way of heartlessness. Fei Yan finally broke character and pleaded. Master, could you take me in just one more time? Only then did I give a slight smile. Fine, I knew this day would come. I am not surprised, I said calmly, accepting her request. A drop of blood merged into the formation. The contract was complete. Fei Yan looked at me, her face blooming with a radiant smile. Xianqing, I told you, destiny would bring us together again. The end.